Hey. Welcome to the April 21st, 2015 City Council regular meeting. Madam City Clerk, will you call, or I just called it to order, can you call the roll?
Mayor Tom Vance.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Kathy Huckabee.
Present.
Councilmember Don Gerand.
Here.
Councilmember Bob Keller.
Present.
Councilmember Tom Odell. Councilmember Ramiro Valderrama.
Present.
Councilmember Nancy Whitten.
Councilmember Odell is away on personal business. Have a motion to excuse.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? He is excused. Tonight, we have an impromptu flag ceremony. Troop 695 from Sammamish of the Boy Scouts are going to have the flag ceremony, and I guess we need flags.
No, they
or
took
you've got it. Oh, you've got them, right. I understand. I'm looking around for flags. You've got them. So can we all rise? Or they will lead us in this.
Color guard, attention. Color guard, forward march. Scout salute. Those not in uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Color guard, close the colors. Please repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. Color guard, retreat.
Thank you very much. Boy Scout Troop 695, thank you very much. Next, we have approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. I do have one change. One of our council members has an obligation to leave a little early, so we're going to move one of our important things that was going to come last on the agenda to the front. And this is the city manager's report, the city manager's position transition. We're going to put that is the first item under presentations and proclamations. So that amendment, so the agenda, approval of the agenda plus the consent agenda as changed. We have a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next is no student liaison reports tonight. Mr. City Manager, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After 15 wonderful years serving you as your city manager, I gave my notice that I will be ending my employment of February of 2016. I wanted to share with you my recommendation as to how you might want to consider proceeding going forward in terms of getting your new city manager. So I'm just sharing with you the memo that we're putting it out on the screen as well.
And I just wanted to make the point that you're retiring, not like resigning like the newspaper said. A very different thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I do want to take some time to decompress, but I understand there's a fine line between decompressing and decomposing, so I need to be careful. Two options are available. Typically, that's what we utilize here in the city. We do, anytime we have a new position opens up, and we think that there's some internal candidates qualified for the position, we do the internal recruitment process first. There's obviously tremendous benefits of getting an internal candidate. A, the person knows the systems. B, is very familiar with the organization. C, is totally understands the council's expectations and the community's expectations and a number of other reasons. I wanted to also give you an outline that if you choose not to go internal candidate process and decide to do outside recruitment, that process typically takes about 6 to 7 months from the day first that you pull the trigger to say this is what we're going to do, the date that you make your final decision as to who's the finalist. And then obviously whoever the finalist is, he or she has to give notice to his or her current employer before he or she can start. So the dates that I outline here took into consideration your council meeting dates, August recess, and also giving the potential candidate about 60 days option to give notice to his employer or her employer. If you decide to proceed with the outside, there are a number of steps that we have to take. First, we need to request for qualifications from various firms. I suspect that there will be at least 2 or 3 in-state and perhaps maybe 2 out-of-state firms might be interested in this. You would have to review those statement of qualifications, and then if you feel like you need to interview the firms, then you have to schedule the interviews. Once you select the finalist, most qualified firm that you're comfortable with, next step is for me to do the contract negotiations. That about probably a week or 10 days that I suspect that we should be able to complete that. Well, the contract then has to be approved by the council. Once the contract is approved by the council, next step for you is to do interviews with the firm so the firm can develop a candidate profile for you. That interviews with the council members, department heads, and potentially, perhaps, if you wish, your current city manager. And from that candidate profile, once you approve that, headhunter then will start the recruitment process, advertisement process. That's about 45 to 60 days. That's what I would advise you would consider doing it. Part of that time also coincides with your August recess anyhow. And September, you would then review the candidates. You select the top 5. From that top 5, you would direct the headhunter to do the detailed and extensive background check. That background check includes criminal background check, performance background check, achievements background check. It will be a very comprehensive background check that you would get from the headhunter. Once you get those, you then perhaps reduce that number to 3, and then you would schedule the interviews with the council, interviews with the department heads, interview perhaps with the community members. Out of that process, you get the feedback from the interview panels, then you will finalize your decision, and then the contract negotiation starts with the finalist. Once the contract is finalized, you have to approve that contract, then that person has to give a notice. I put the dates out there, that approximate timeline it takes to get this job done. It is a long and extensive process. It can also be a very expensive process. You have to pay for headhunter. You have to also pay potentially for some of the candidates out of travel expenses. And if you choose a candidate outside, then you probably have to consider paying some moving and relocation expenses. Given these 2 paths, 2 options, I would recommend that you consider doing your internal advertisement and look at the internal candidates. We have an outstanding internal candidate. Your deputy city manager has been with us for 10 years. He has an intimate knowledge of city finances. He knows the public safety, particularly as it relates to the fire and police. And most importantly, he understands the contract model of management. That is a unique for City of Sammamish. I can't think of any other city in the state does that to the extent that we do it and the way that how we do it. So That's my recommendation. I need the council's direction, what you would like to do, and what work process that you want me to start.
Councilmember Whitten?
Mr.
I know.
Mr. Uzizi, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How long do you anticipate it would take if we go in council before we go through and have a hiring decision and a contract in place?
In terms of our internal recruitment process?
Yes, I'm sorry, to contrast with this other one, which would take close to a year.
If you choose to do that, typically what I do for internal recruitment, I send an email to the whole organization, and I encourage all qualified candidates to submit their names and application to the Beth Goldberg, our Administrative Services Director. She will collect that information and then coordinate with the department heads. In this case, I would, if you choose to go that direction, tomorrow I would send information or email to the whole organization, ask all candidates to submit their names to whoever the group the council selects, and then you can start that process within probably about 10 days.
And how long, but, I mean, everything else would be shortcut, I mean, in terms of, you wouldn't have to give 60 days notice.
No,
But what would you be talking about? Maybe 2 or 3 months?
much shorter the process, much shorter. Probably you can complete that process in 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Part of it is because internal candidate has been here, employed, you know the background. There are a lot of things that it's known that you don't need to go through this extensive process for outside.
Before we go any further, does Councilmember Jaran, do you have a motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to put a motion on the table and then have some discussion on it. I would like to move that we interview internal candidates first, and that the council appoint the mayor, deputy mayor, and councilmember Keller to work with the city manager to arrange the interview process and report back to the council.
Second that.
Any
Discussion.
discussion?
Yeah, Kathy and I were here from the beginning, and we did go through the external process in the first time around, had a nationwide search with a search firm, and our first city manager was selected that way. A year later, we decided that that wasn't the ideal choice, and so we then did an internal search and came up with an outstanding candidate, which has been with us the last 15 years as our city manager. Now, I'm on the board of Association of Washington Cities, and I've been on the board, I think, 8 or 9 years, and we've actually gone through just the reverse there. We had a long-serving CEO who left, and we replaced that CEO from an internal process. And the internal process worked out well for us, and now that CEO has retired. We have selected an interim CEO who has no intention of applying for the permanent CEO position. And we started the process very similar to what Ben has outlined here. Our process, we estimate, will take about 7 months. We went through a selection of a headhunting firm, and that firm has gone nationwide with a search for candidates and came up with a large number of candidates, and I'm on the search committee. We met last week, reviewed the candidates and boiled it down to a semifinalist group of 6, which we will be interviewing next week, as well as will a staff committee from Association of Washington Cities. And then we will make a recommendation of finalists, which will be, the background check will be done on them, and eventually in May, it'll come to the board for a final selection. And that process may get interrupted if the finalist decides not to take the job, and then you go back to the well. So I am all in favor of doing an internal search first, and there may be more than one candidate internally, and we shall see.
Any other?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Deputy Mayor Huckabee.
Yes, and I was going to also second that. We are doing an external search for the fire chief. We're about a month ahead of where we are here. And we're hoping that we'll be finished at about this time, so it's a longer period of time. But I was also on the search committee for the new executive director for the Puget Sound Regional Council, and there were a lot of firms that were interested. It took us a while to get through just the firm selection process, and then there were candidates from all over the United States. And the time of getting the search committee together and those folks together, it was almost a full year before we ended up selecting somebody. So it can be a very long process. It can be very uncomfortable for the staff people and others who are very concerned. So I, too, strongly feel that we've got excellent directors here and would love to see an internal search first. And then if that doesn't work out, go externally.
Councilmember Valderrama.
Yeah, I'm also supportive of an internal search first. I would, however, caveat on 2 points. First of all, it's candidates so that they can, as we said before, all qualified candidates submit, and we go through the consideration. We have a very promising candidates here in the city. But should that not occur, I think we have this outline of the schedule that would still give us the flexibility to then expand should that be the case of needed. And so with that as an understanding, as a framework, I'd be very supportive of that and beginning here locally first.
Councilmember Keller.
Yes, I'd like to, I like this process. I'd like to ask the council to consider an amendment to the motion, and that would be that Councilmember Gerand possibly take my place instead because of the time requirements that would be involved in this and some of the committees on. I really would appreciate it if maybe.
Well, both of you work on a lot of committees, so I know sometimes it's a time commitment, and sometimes it's hard to get either one of you on anything, so
You want to split it?
it's up to you, if you want to make that motion.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Okay.
Can I say something too?
Sure. Well, you're next, so go ahead.
I really was concerned when first of all, I fully support going in-house. I think we have at least one, maybe several very talented people who might be interested. But I am concerned about this motion coming to us with the committee members already named. Some of us have felt excluded from committees where the concern that they haven't been openly asked for volunteers at our council meetings. And our council is split on some of the personnel issues, 4-3 on some, 5-2. I think this committee needs to be representative of everybody in the council. I don't think it should automatically be the mayor, the deputy mayor, and somebody that they've concurred with. It makes me feel left out again and excluded, and I don't think that this process is so important to our city. I think Ramiro or myself should equally be candidates for that. Bob has removed himself from the thing. So I don't think it should just be designated to be Don. I'd be happy with Don or Ramiro. I don't have the time to do it. But I think it just needs to be a more open process. And I want to bring this up because people need to be sensitive to the fact that these important committee decisions should not be made ahead of time by a couple of people.
Personally, there's been no second, so I can actually change my, the motion. I think, what you're saying makes sense and is fair, so I can change the motion to whomever would
Of all three
replace me.
positions on it.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Of all three positions
Exactly.
on it. I mean, I don't think even the mayor and deputy mayor should
I agree.
appoint themselves to committees.
Okay, let's keep in mind, we had a discussion of this, and while we didn't make any final decisions, we're hopefully doing this today. I believe everyone was in the room, and I believe that you were asked to be on this little group. You were specifically asked to be on it because you had a lot of legal questions that you wanted answered about this issue. You were asked to be on it, and you said no.
Okay,
I don't know if you recall that, but
no, I don't, but I'm sure you're right.
so I think it's. I'm happy to step down if somebody wants to be there in case instead of me, but we had a consensus at that point, not a decision, we're doing that now, that it would be the three people that Councilmember Jaron mentioned. And And nobody objected at that point to that. So,
Right, I apologize, I do recall that.
all right, fine. So are you making your amendment or motion?
I make an amendment that to whomever at the pleasure of the city council would replace my
Okay.
name.
You sure you don't want to be on
No, I'm fine.
it? Or, okay.
Actually, now.
Is there a second to that amendment?
So moved.
Well, there is a motion.
Oh,
Is
so
there a second?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, do you want to, does anyone want to step forward and be on?
No, I was going to make a motion. I'd like to invite Councilmember Witten. I think her legal background, as I pointed out before,
I would
would
second that.
be very appropriate for this
Do
committee.
you want to go back on? I mean,
No, I don't have time.
okay.
Beneficial because of your perspective.
Would you
Honestly,
want to make
your
another
legal
motion or
perspective.
just someone
No,
else?
I
Okay.
really felt that Nancy made that point, and I thought it was really appropriate that we have that perspective, and she's declining.
Yeah, Councilmember Keller?
I would just like to go back and ask Councilmember Witten to really reconsider if possible.
Yeah, and come back to us after she looks at her schedule to see if she could find
Me?
that time.
But you're leaving tomorrow, right?
I'm leaving tomorrow for 2 weeks. I'm
Yeah,
gone
Yeah,
2 days later for 4 days, and,
That's fine. It'll work.
I mean, I'm happy to
It would work.
look at my schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Well, we don't have to make that necessarily that decision tonight. So we can do that at this point.
I'll start the wheels rolling tomorrow morning for you to start that process.
The main motion is for the folks, the main motion is to go internally. Now, the main motion included 3 people. The one person has withdrawn. Do we vote on the other 2?
You voted on the amendment?
Sure.
So now I'm just saying you have to vote on the main motion.
Well, what the main, I'm trying to define what the main motion is. One person made a motion to have himself excused.
And that,
So we've got still 2 people as part of the main motion.
Who could start the
Plus the
committee?
whoever.
And then the
function.
third will be at the pleasure of the council to be decided later.
At some other point?
Yeah.
Is that your understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great.
That as if we're all understanding, that's how it's been amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you.
We appreciate your real hard work on this.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, next we have Parks and Recreation reports. Mr. City Manager, again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight is actually Parks and Recreation Department night. There's going to be lots of Parks and Recreation reports. We're going to start with the Parks and Recreation Department report, and then we're going to give you an update specifically on the community center. We have our esteemed Parks Director, Ms. Jessie Bond here, and she will start the reports. Ms. Bond?
Thank you, and thank you, members of the council. Since it's Parks Night, we'll have balloons and games and a parade. No, we won't do that. It's been almost a year since I was here last, so quite a bit to report on.
What's been happening in Nellhead?
And not a lot in my
Outside of the
personal
Super
life. Nothing in our professional life either.
No.
First things first, speaking of the big project, Anjali Meyer is here this evening, and after I complete the department report, her and I will give you a construction report on the community center, so I'm not going to touch on that project during this presentation. I thought I'd start with our capital projects, and I'm really excited because Big Rock Park is in design right now. When we last left off with this with City Council, we had completed our master plan, and it's exciting to see, at least on paper, some of that vision taking shape. Kelly Hildy is here tonight, and she has been living and breathing this project for 3 or 4 years now. Phase 1, just to recap, is parking, a new park entrance, what we're calling a natural playground or playscape, accessible trails and a boardwalk, and also because of the sensitive areas on this site, some stream restoration and enhancement. Excuse me. So I thought I'd walk you through just a couple of the design shots here. What you're seeing on these slides, let me get my pointer. This is a cross section. So this is the parking and the park entrance, and you'll now have a little seat wall that will cut through that existing fence. Most of the fence is being retained. I know in the master planning process, there was a lot of concern about the street trees. We're taking out only 4 trees to accommodate the parking. And we are taking out the trees that maybe aren't as healthy as some of the others. We are replanting on the site with, I understand, at least 25 other trees and likely more as the site develops. The other thing, zip line.
Oh, my God.
Okay, now, I'm, in full disclosure, I've been harassed about the zip line for, I don't know, at least the last 5 years, so I'm happy to say we're finally putting one in. However, I'm not sure it's sized right for adult use, and it's certainly not the upper commons to lower commons zip line that you have been desiring. But it's a start, and I think it's something that our insurance carrier will actually approve, so.
If we did that other one, we'd have to go over houses in between, wouldn't we?
Yes, that's as soon as we finish the community center, I'll go back to your bigger zip line vision. So as you come into the park, the new entrance, you'll hang a right, and there will be a zip line feature. We're also excited because we're bringing in, we call them natural playscapes, but it's just a fancy word for some big rocks that will be fun to climb on. All right. As you swing to the left, I've got another cross section here to give you an idea of some of the structures, the natural playscape structures we're proposing. So again, here's your parking lot. This is your cross section. We have these earth mound tunnels, so we'll have lots of little things for kids to crawl through. We have a berm here, and actually this berm is pretty amazing because you'll be able to sit up on the berm and look out over this entire area. And so for parents, you can literally come in, turn your kids loose. I'm looking forward to this in a couple years, and be able to see what's going on. We also have, this is a sort of a central gathering space, and we put this in because we know we're going to have educational groups, classrooms, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts coming, and we learned during the master plan process, when you show up on the site with all these kids, we need a place for them to hang out. And get oriented. So that is under design. Another, I think one of the most exciting features in our natural playscape is what we call an embankment slide. So we know from watching kids play on playgrounds that when they like to get to the top of the slide through any other means than actually going up the climbing, the ladder. So we've actually given them many options here. This is not our embankment slide, but we'll be building something similar. So you have a path of stairs around, you have these boulders that you can climb up, and then there will also be an ADA path on the other side. All right. Also important to note that we'll be putting in some new boardwalk across the wetland and the creek on this site. And all of our paths coming in, the primary path is 5 feet wide, and it will be ADA accessible. You can see that that's sort of the long, you can see it here. Got quite a long run to achieve ADA accessibility, but that was a primary concern during the master plan, was to make this an accessible site. I'm also very pleased, it's taken some serious doing on the design part, but our secondary paths are 3 feet wide and also will be ADA accessible. Some fun partnerships. I know we get to do all the crazy projects in parks. We will be building nests with the Sammamish Arts Commission. We have an artist that builds these sort of life-size nests. We'll be doing this project in September and then moving the nests once they're done to the park opening, which we anticipate will be this fall. I see lots of excitements about the nests. Hey, some other really exciting things, and this is a theme that will be, you'll see throughout this presentation, is our Sammamish Trail Stewards will be stepping in to help us build a lot of these trails and the boardwalk. You might recall when we did Evans Creek Preserve Phase 1, we identified a group of citizens and had them work alongside WTA to learn how to trail build, because we knew we had all of these other trail projects in the pipeline. So our own trail stewards now are in play, and will be helping us save tremendous amount of costs on this project by helping us construct these trails.
Where are the men?
What's that?
Where are the men?
Where, actually, we,
Front labor.
Oh,
I don't know. I
this is
won't
the
make a,
intellectual part, okay.
Policy.
I know
Those are
we
the
do have some,
policymakers.
yes. We have- Actually, I think the trail stewards are probably split 50-50. Another project, which I think will be back with an update from these students to you in the fall, but the Lake Washington School District, their STEM students, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, approached us months ago and said, hey, we'd really like to get involved in park planning. And originally, they were looking at doing some work at Evans Creek Preserve, but we said, you know, we have this other project that's under design right now. So we came up with basically an internship project, program, I guess, if you will, and I think we had over 40 applicants, so they had to actually apply. We had no idea what was going to happen. We had over 40 applicants. We were only going to select 2 or 3, and we said, well, because of the demand, let's figure this out. So we selected 10, and they've been working with Kelly, and they're doing basically 4 elements of the project. They're working on stream restoration. They're developing some environmental education programs, so teachers that want to bring their students to the site will have a curriculum already prepared that's applicable to Big Rock Park. They're working on interpretive signage. That tends to be the one thing that once we get the park open, we run out of time to do. And then we also have a subset of this group that's really interested in electrical vehicle charging stations, and they're working on that. So this has been a really fun project. These kids are super smart. They sort of intimidate me. And they will be back sharing their programs at another council meeting. And Kelly had a date on here, but I got nervous and took it off. So I will say we are planning to be out to bid shortly. This will be a late summer, fall construction project, which considering the size, I think will be just fine, and will be opening in fall. We're at 90%, almost 90% design now, in for permitting and on schedule. All right, I should mention too, Kelly's really talented. That illustration is hers. Another project that we really are excited about is the Lower Commons to Big Rock Park Trail. I know we've talked about the route. We do have a route now, and it's been tentatively blessed by our planning department. So let me grab my pen here. This is Lower Commons Park. I know this blue line is hard for the audience to see, but we come down through Lower Commons. We pop into the Lancaster Ridge open space HOA area, and then we cross over to Balmoral's HOA open space, and we go here. Now, all of these residents know that this is our desired route, and we're reaching out to them now to finalize easements. So I will be back to you with a report on that. Lancaster has a formed HOA, which means we just need to work directly with that HOA. Balmoral never formed their HOA, so we're working with all 9 of the residents individually. Okay. Sammamish Landing Phase 3, which is a fancy term for restrooms. We are in process right now of the council authorized, I believe it was in February, the purchase of a prefabricated restroom building. It does not look like the restroom in that picture, but that was the best we could do. We did order a product that actually complements the design of our parks, similar to the finishes at like the picnic shelters at Pine Lake. So we're now coordinating with the contractor that's completing the parking lot and the park access, and this will all be coming together as we get closer to the summer. All right. And this is just a shot from basically the trail. Actually, I think we're not quite on the trail, but looking back towards the parkway, and this gives you an idea, or maybe not a great idea, but this is where the restroom building will go. We have to bring in the restroom building with a crane, so we're coordinating with our utility companies to drop the lines for the day we install the restroom. And by the way, it's been great working with them. All right, Evans Creek Preserve Phase 2 Hillside Trails. You may recall, I think it was just the previous council meeting, you authorized an additional contract with WTA. They had some extra hours, we have some extra work, and they're gonna continue working on the hillside trails at Evans Creek Preserve. We have more trails completed than I ever envisioned at this stage of the game at Evans Creek Preserve, and it's really largely due to our wonderful partnership with the Washington Trails Association. So a huge thank you to them. I should mention, many of our volunteers are also on our Parks Commission or former Parks Commission. That's Pauline on the right. That, by the way, is incredibly steep terrain, and it's slow going, so I can't emphasize enough how much we appreciate them. I thought I'd just take a quick walk through what's happening in park and facility maintenance land. It's sometimes hard to describe a typical day because there is no typical day. Earlier this year, we had, actually it wasn't this year, I think it was the end of 14, we had a washout at Evans Creek Preserve. As you know, that hillside is very wet, and this will happen from time to time. So when it does, our crews get out there as soon as they can to reopen the trails. We also have, now we really have quite an extensive network of trails within our parks, and we're really trying to stay on top of maintenance. This is the Lower Commons under, we've got a lot of standing water on the trail, so lots of trail maintenance going on within our parks. Irrigation repairs. I was asking Kyle Endeman, I should acknowledge Kyle, our Deputy Parks Director earlier, for some fun facts about irrigation. It's what we do in our spare time. One of the fun facts is I think we have over 3,500 irrigation heads in our irrigation system park-wide. So there you go.
That's a fun fact.
That'll be a trivia question in the future. Anyway, this time of year, we are turning everything back on and de-winterizing, and we always have a few surprises, so our crews are out. This picture is a repair happening at Beaver Lake Park. It looks like how I do home repairs, things everywhere, tools everywhere. But we're in playing season right now, so ball fields are online, and provided the weather holds, as it did not tonight, athletic fields are in use. Speaking of athletic fields, this is also that time of year where we are maintaining our grass fields and our synthetic turf fields. Our synthetic turf fields, we do have a contract, and the work our crews are doing is basically to support that contract. But I tell you, our athletic fields this time of year, because of the rain and the sun, we are often mowing 2 times a week to keep those to keep that grass manageable. So lots of mowing. Other duties as assigned, that's sort of the name of the game. We have lots of things happening in our over 500-acre park system now. So I showed a couple slides here, replacing a railing at Northeast Sammamish Park, and then doing some concrete repairs at our skate park. Something else that's always important to point out is we have a number of playgrounds in our park system, all fairly new and of high quality. However, we adhere to a national playground safety standards, which means we're performing at least weekly inspections on all of our playgrounds. And I think we have at least 4 crew members now that have passed the Certified Playground Safety Inspection course, which is an incredibly intense course. So congratulations to them, and glad to know we have a safe playground, so we're staying on top of that. And because I let my staff help with slides, this is what I opened up today. And I thought, just for a little laugh.
Trying to get rid of some elephants.
Yes.
Is that on our wildlife corridors?
Yes, yes.
These are literate.
Yes. There was a show called Parks and Recreation for a reason. We have a lot of fun in our department, and those really are not animals at Evans Creek Preserve. But this time of year, our crew, both park maintenance and our entire maintenance crew, is certainly dealing with some wildlife issues, actually all year long. I believe this is, the photo to the right is actually a photo from Sammamish, helping some little guys get out of a detention pond. Twin deers, I might, deers, that's it. Another project, big project, is the afforestation project of the Lower Commons, and something that you don't see, we'll be talking about all the trees and shrubs we planted. But the goal of that project is actually to have an established canopy in 5 years, which means we need to irrigate, which means we needed to bring in temporary irrigation to that site, and that was all done by our in-house crew.
How many trees have you planted?
I'm getting there, I'm getting there.
Thunder.
Yeah. Another project that I'm really proud of, we did in-house, our new wayfinding signs at Evans Creek Preserve. So it was really great when we opened the Sahalli Trailhead, and then we found people were getting lost. So that wasn't good. But Kelly, our project manager, did all the design work, and then our maintenance crew installed all these signs. And if you go out there now, you see these, and they're well labeled. So
When was these signs were installed?
they were
Well,
Winter, late
I
spring.
just got a phone call from Councilmember Jaron that he was lost there, so last week, so that's one reason I'm asking.
I'll ask Kelly to come with me next time.
Yes, for those of you that don't know, one time that happened and Kelly hurt her back and ended up in the hospital and was out of work for several weeks. So we no longer go hiking with Councilmember Jaron. Yes. Actually, that was the reconnaissance mission for the now Sahalli Trailhead Trail. So I guess in some strange way, it was worth it. All right. Hey, this is another fun one you may not even be aware of. We are in the process of refinishing the Beaver Lake Pavilion. This is that large pavilion that's outside of the Beaver Lake Lodge. A couple of years ago, we identified some concerns related to weathering and what we thought could become dry rot. We investigated a lot of different methods for refinishing, including sandblasting and soda blasting. What we landed on was something that's basically dry ice sanding. So it's no mess. We go through a lot of dry ice, but it virtually strips off the stain, and it's clean, and it's working great. And this is what it looks like now. We're not quite done yet, but all in-house as well.
This was a very expensive project during the budget time. Had we hired a contractor to do this thing, so kudos to Jessie and her team. So getting this thing done with in-house crew, fantastic.
Yeah, all credit to the Parks Maintenance crew for sure. So if you get a chance, pop on out and take a look. All right, facility rentals. You know, it's been a long time since we talked any statistics, and I'll just go through this really quickly. We did a quick comparison of 2014 to 2013. So we've had a little uptick in revenue, nothing significant. This is all facilities. So the lodge, City Hall, our athletic fields, picnic shelters. Synthetic turf fields, again, an increase, although most of that is likely attributed to bringing Eastlake Field number 3 online. I for sure wanted to show these pictures because I think they're just so stinking cute. The natural turf fields, natural turf is my fancy term for grass, and a little bit, again, we're holding steady. I think nothing significant to report on usage there. Picnic shelters, again, they're being used a lot in the spring and summer, almost the same usage pattern from 2014 to 13. And indoor facilities, this includes the lodge and City Hall. We were up just a little bit in 2014. So one of the things I wanted to mention, and this sort of tees off the conversation later about our facility rental policies, I'm often hearing that there's not a lot of space available for meetings in the city. And we had restructured lodge usage probably 2 years ago to prevent groups from booking, for long periods of time, to make sure it's available for community use. So I asked Joanna Martin, who's here, she's our recreation supervisor, to take a look take a snapshot in time and tell me what kind of availability we have. So we looked back at January to March of this year, and here's what I wanted to share with you. 80% of weekdays, and from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., we were able to identify an available 2-hour meeting window. So that's telling me that we do have time available for community meetings at the lodge during the weekday. We also took a look at weeknights from the same period of time, January to March, and 70% of the weeknights, and again, I'm looking for a 2-hour window between 6 and 10 p.m., we had availability. So because council members, you are out in the community and you're hearing this, what I wanted to tell you is we do have capacity. As long as there's some flexibility with the date and a little bit of flexibility with the time, it's rare that we turn away a group that meets, that qualifies under our nonprofit use standards. So food for thought. And we're also taking a close look at marketing because there's probably some things we can do to get the word out a little better. Volunteers, all right. This is, Ben wanted to know about trees. So here's an exciting statistics. Already, we're over 1,500 volunteer hours for the first quarter of the year. That was double the number of hours we had this time last year. So that's great. And we're really stinking busy. Lower Sammamish Commons, we're planting a lot. So since September, we planted 2,910 native trees and shrubs, and this is over that 5-acre wetland buffer. Now, I know, I wasn't here for the budget process, but I know we set a goal of 1,000 trees in 2015. So this site alone, we've already planted, in 2015 only, 672 trees. The afforestation project is 75% complete, and talking with my staff this afternoon, I'm assured that we are going to more than exceed, well exceed the 1,000 tree goal for this year.
And that's our volunteer coordinator, my soccer mate.
Yes, yes, who broke her leg playing soccer with our city manager.
It's dangerous around
Yes,
here.
yes. Ebright Creek Park, another project. I was just out there Saturday for the Earth Day event. Since September, first of all, if you had been out there, I don't have a great before picture, but Ebright Creek that runs through that park was just completely covered in blackberries. They were 20 feet tall, and we stood out there as staff before I went on maternity leave and said, what are we going to do about this? Well, we didn't come up with a solution, but the native plant stewards got involved, and they have single-handedly almost cleared that entire creek bed. They planted 275 native trees and contributed another 25 trees to our 2015 goal. It looks really amazing if you get a chance to go out and visit.
That's better than a herd of goats, isn't it?
It is. It is. Another great partnership, we partnered with the Friends of the Cedar River Watershed to plant 525 native trees and shrubs at Sammamish Landing. This happened at the end of 2014, so I'm not able to count them in our goal, but still just incredible work happening on in our parks and on our shorelines. This is another really cool partnership. In October, we salvaged, not we, the native plant stewards, 19 volunteers salvaged over 200 plants from a development site, and we reused those at Ebright Creek Park and Evans Creek Preserve. I'm not sure, I know some of you see the invoices, but purchasing plants is incredibly expensive. So this program is allowing us to save money, and it's just great. All volunteer driven too, just amazing. We continue, I think one of our long-standing success is at the Lower Commons, the Native Plant Garden. This was the original project that the Native Plant Stewards took on when they became stewards and we joined the Washington Native Plant Steward Program. So it's currently in its 6th year. Usually at least once a month we have volunteers working down at that site, and it's just been a great showpiece for us. The only challenge we have is the deer. They like to eat our plants. Speaking of the plant stewards, we currently have 15 active plant stewards, and these are people that give hundreds of hours to our volunteer program each year. Our volunteer coordinator, LB, could not run these projects without these people. We've had several events as of late where we've had over 50 volunteers show up to one park site, and that's just not something that one person can manage. So these folks go out and get training, and they just give back a lot of time. We're also managing the Adopt a Roads program, and we have 31 organizations right now that are helping keep our streets clean. You may recall this, King County used to manage the Adopt a Road program in Sammamish, and we migrated it over, I think, 2 years ago. So it's going well. Eagle Scouts, this is another one where, we had 5 Eagle Scout projects, but those 5 Eagle Scout projects since August generated 560 hours of volunteer work in our parks. So just amazing. I could tell you I've worked at 3 other agencies before I came here, and I have never seen volunteerism like I've seen it in Sammamish. It's just incredible. And the trail stewards I already mentioned, they're gearing up to go build trails and boardwalks at Big Rock Park. And last but not least, this is Elby on her crutches. I had to just, when I found out she broke her leg, I marched right into Ben's office and said, none of my staff will be playing soccer with you anymore. But I wanted to give a shout out to Elby because even on crutches, she is doing a great job. And she's managed 25 volunteer events in our parks since she started in July, and that is a pretty big undertaking. And she's in a walking boot now, so we're in a little better shape. Special events. All right, this is the time of year where we get really, really busy. I wanted to mention we have a new event, Rigapalooza. Coming up in May. This is, you've probably heard of Touch a Truck. Some other agencies do this. We bring all sorts of vehicles and their sirens, and we're gonna put them out here on the plaza, and kids are gonna come and climb through them and hopefully not drive them or do anything too dangerous. But we're really looking forward to it. This was sort of we used to do we were doing a National Night Out event in August, and we have not been getting the attendance we had hoped, so we're taking a different direction and programming a new event in May. I will be sure to send you an email reminder about that event. Farmers Market, it's coming, May 20th. I think Deb is here somewhere. All right. That's a partner with, I should mention, the Chamber of Commerce. Teen Skate Fest competition, June 5th coming up. I say every year, this is for teens, but if any of you would like to participate, please let me know and we will make an exception.
Exception.
Just don't do it with this guy or that guy.
I know.
Break your neck.
You know, when I started with the city, I don't know, a little over 8 years ago, we were offering 3 Kids First programs, which were on Tuesdays. These are the noontime programs geared towards the little guys, usually under age 6 or 7. And I think we're up to 8 events now. Due to a partnership with the Friends of the Library and an ongoing sponsorship from the Kiwanis. So on Tuesdays this summer, we will have a number of children's performers rotating through 3 different parks. And concerts in the park are back in July and August at Pine Lake Park on Thursday evenings, per the usual. Shakespeare, we also have 2 Saturdays. We've been doing this for a number of years. This is also at Pine Lake Park. Sammamish Days, August 22nd, excuse me. This is our family-friendly community event. And again, same thing as previous years, performances, activities, vendors, entertainment. And it's never too late to get your costume ready, so we plugged this one in. Friday before Halloween, we host a trick-or-treat through City Hall, and we certainly encourage our city council members to participate. And because I'm sure we'll see Christmas decorations in the store next week, I thought I should probably mention Very Merry Sammamish December 4th, which is one of my favorite events because we have the petting zoo. All right. Lifeguarding at Pine Lake, just a reminder, we're in the hiring process right now. I think we've actually got all of our candidates selected for this year. And lifeguards on duty at Pine Lake beginning June 20th. I think it's going to be a pretty busy summer at the lake, so we are really gearing up for that, and we started our hiring process early.
This is at Pine Lake.
Pine Lake.
Will we have something similar at the landing, or what's that going to be like this year?
Actually, we do not guard the landing.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're probably wondering,
Is the landing going to actually be open and available for people to use this summer?
the $1,000,000 question. The date, our opening date we're working towards is July 4th.
Okay.
So what's happening right now is the trail is reopened or mostly reopened, so you can
Right.
get to the park via the trail, but you cannot get to the park via the parkway. So from our, we are maintaining the landing. We'll have the honey bucket back in place for use, and then continue to work towards completing construction.
Because on the nice days, I have seen people there.
Absolutely.
That I'm sure they walk down the trail.
Absolutely. We actually just had a staff meeting this week about some interim safety things that we're going to need to do to make sure we don't have people crossing the construction site from the parkway. So stay tuned. We'll have more information. 4th on the Plateau, I didn't forget about it. Even with construction, the show goes on. I think it was a year ago you asked me where we were going to launch the fireworks, and I said, I don't know. And it's because I really didn't. So I set the bar low. It took me a year to get back to you with an answer. This graphic is a little bit hard to see. Let me get my pointer out. This is an aerial. This is the old trail. So our launch site will now be at about the midpoint on the trail. The trail was closed this year for construction, and there's really no way to reopen it. And this was our only location outside of the construction site that meets the fall zone requirements. And just so you know, this wasn't Jesse's delay tactic at getting you an answer. We had to go through a lot of hurdles between the fire department, the fireworks company, and their insurance company, and our insurance company to identify this site. So the great news about this site is the fall zone is bigger than previous years, which means we get to launch 5-inch shells this year instead of just the 3-inch and 4-inch shells. So we're gonna have a little bit bigger show. So you'll all wanna be here for that night. And other than that, same look and feel and just tons of fun planned for the 4th on the Plateau. What's new this year is shuttles. We recognize, for those of you that have been here, you know that trail is really, really busy. People like to go up and down, and we're not going to be able to do that this year. So we are going to run shuttles from the upper commons to the lower commons. It's an imperfect solution, but it's for 1 year, and we want people to be able to access both parts. And we can't, the event is too big to just host on either half of the property.
So the shuttles will run on the streets outside, and
Yeah.
not some type of shuttle or a truck on the plaza or going down the hill?
No zip line.
No zip line, that's too bad.
No zip line. Yeah, we will be running. The construction site is tricky because under construction, the site doesn't really belong to us, and for liability reasons, we can't access it even temporarily.
Sure.
And that's the right thing, but.
No, I understand that.
yeah.
I was just curious how you.
On the
whether we're-
streets.
Okay.
But what my staff tell me, we're going to be really efficient. There's going to be a 2-minute wait time, no longer than that, and you should be able to get. It was 2 minutes, right? Not 10? It wasn't 10. Okay. All right, last but not least. Personally, I'm well rested, the laundry's done, and the house is clean, and while none of that is even remotely true, life is good, and I just wanted to say thank you all for your support this last year. I know I was out for a long period of time, and I'm still unable to do complex math, so I
You can
I
count to
appreciate
2,
being
though.
back. Well, it depends on the day. Yes, this is Casey, and this is Claire, and they're 6 months old now.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Any questions? I guess Councilmember Jaron.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jesse, for a great report. And it's really exciting to hear that finally the lower commons to Big Rock trail, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, is that right? And just wanted to remind you not to forget about the possible trail back from Phase 2 of Big Rock Park behind Mary Queen of Peace.
That is on our list. Yeah,
Community center, because that would be really a nice loop then.
that is. I know we have been looking at that. Thank you for the reminder.
I can take Kelly on another walk.
He's not allowed to go with me.
We've already got one in a walking cast.
Councilmember Valderrama?
Yeah, echo what Councilmember Jurin said of a great presentation. Also for your staff, kudos for the work that they've done, not just on the maintenance and not just even on the in-house work, which has saved us a tremendous amount of work, but also the design work that you've been doing and growing in that capability in our city. That's really been a valuable addition. 2 questions for you. On the fields, you had shown the increase in revenue and in hours. How is it as far as utilization of those community fields? At one time, I believe we were like at 94% utilization. Do you have numbers for what the utilization is now?
You know, I apologize. I do not have the percentage utilization, but that's something I'd be happy to get for you.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. And I know that you had started, and hopefully you're continuing to look at the utilizations of the parks themselves. That would be something that Councilmember Curley, former Councilmember Curley, was very much interested in, that I share that opinion on. Also, you had a slide there which I'll call the Big Bang, Big Rock project with the STEM schools. Is that going to be a 1 year, or is that going to continue and be expanded to include the other schools and high schools in our area?
You know, great question. We took on this partnership not really knowing what to even expect, but I can tell you, It's been very successful thus far. We have kids that are actively engaged in our park, and I'd like to say that we'll continue to do this and look at partnering with other schools as well.
Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic to get a hands-on, because there's a lot of interest in our school systems on environmental programs, and particularly as much as we've invested in our environment and the Koch and other ones, it's a great resource to have and be able to partner with our schools. Thank you again.
Deputy Mayor Huckabee.
Yes, I just wanted to say this is really an exciting presentation, and I know we talked about it earlier, but to see all the pictures, and especially to see the tremendous volunteer support that we've been able to achieve and the partnerships we've been able to achieve and the work we've gotten done with people who care about the community. That, to me, it really says a lot about how our community is working and how the Parks Department is working to invite people into the community. That stem cell project, or the STEM group, sounds just fascinating, and I recognize that we'll be able to reach out and probably work with some of the other schools to accomplish some of the same things. So kudos to all of you and to all the work you're doing. So thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the other one big exciting project, community center update. Mr. City Manager, are you going to look at that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And for your information, I started again the department manager's report. I think these are very helpful to you and to the
Yes.
community. We did the public works before parks. The problem is, I can't have a department to go after parks. They don't have pictures of the kids. They don't
I know it's not really fair, is it?
But we're going to have a community development department next coming, giving you the presentation. Tonight, while we're talking about parks projects, the big one that we're looking at it outside the plaza, community center project. And Anjali Myers, one of our planners, senior planners here, she's been absolutely phenomenal managing this project with Sevda Baran, our project manager too. I don't want to take too much thunder out of you, so this is a good presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Anjali at this point to give us a good update on where we are on the community center project. Anjali?
I'm actually going to cut in front of Anjali for just a minute and do the first few slides, and then Anjali will jump in, if that's okay.
Sure.
And Sevda's vacationing right now, long overdue vacation, otherwise she would be here tonight as well. So just a couple of the quick highlights. You may remember June 12th, we stood out with our gold shovels and broke ground. We did the real groundbreaking where the equipment actually came in on June 16th. Our first wall foundation in mid-July. It's hard to believe it's gone so fast. I didn't get to see this, and I'm so disappointed. This is the hidden pool. This is our stormwater vault that actually sits down below the community center, which is larger in volume than both pools combined, correct?
Well, it's definitely
Close.
bigger than that.
It's close. I'm probably telling a story there, but it's very big. The Great Wall, our first wall was formed in early November. First slab pour on the main floor in mid-November. You'll notice in a lot of these slides it was sunny. We've had an amazing, amazing year for construction. The hollow core planks over the vault went down mid-November. Our steelwork began just as recently as early January. The precast beams over the lap pool, so these are the big beams over our lap pool that support the fitness room. And there's a funny story about these beams. Sevda was driving to work one day and looked over, and one of these beams was in the lane next to her. So while driving, she was trying to take photos, and they all came out very blurry. These beams each weigh 77,000 pounds. We needed a big crane to put those in place. The roof, the glue lambs over the leisure pool in late February. And I think that was it with my my quick highlights. Anjali's got a little more detail. What I wanted to jump in and just talk about real quick is where we're at with our budget and our construction costs. So these are numbers that should be familiar to you. We shared them with you back in May. The top numbers, let me grab my pointer here. The total construction contract, $28 million. The council authorized a 5% contingency, which is about 1.4 million. To date, we've authorized $200,000 in change orders, which I have to say, for a construction project this size, is a very, very good number. Some of those change orders, we've talked to you about some unsuitable soils, which was not totally unexpected. I mean, we expected unsuitable soils on the site. We had a couple of design build components on this project. So the water slide, for example, was not designed. It was designed as part of this project, and as we designed it, there were some details that resulted in some additional costs. And we also had the fire sprinkler systems was another design build where we've had some costs there. So really, I'm pleased. We have an amazing partner in our contractor. We certainly have an architect that's doing good work for us, and just the whole team really, really positive. So I, without any hesitation, feel comfortable with our project, estimated project total of 33.8 million. Also, something that our city manager asked us to track very closely is the percentage we've paid versus percentage complete. So I will just share with you, we're at about 54% completion right now, and our payments to the contractor is at about 43%.
Great.
All right, now for what you're probably most interested in is our photo tour, and then we also have our time-lapse videos to share with you tonight. Anjali?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. City Manager. I'm Anjali Maya, Parks Project Manager, and happy to give you a construction update on the Community and Aquatic Center project. Actually, the first slide over here is a construction timeline that we thought we'd cover some of the broad milestones. If you recall, we hit ground in June of last year, and the contractor is expected to be substantially complete by the end of December this year. So we have crossed the halfway mark. Some of the big milestones are all the foundation work and the exterior framework and roof of the building is complete. The contractor is very busy right now working on the rough-ins, all the framing, and the pool construction. And once he is complete with that, in the summer and fall, they will do all the building finishes. As for the site work, the large stormwater vault took up a lot of their time in summer and fall of 2014. And the smaller stormwater vault, which is below the north access road, will go in spring of this year, after which they will build that north access road around the sheriff's parking lot, as well as the surface parking lots, and then come back and finish up the irrigation and landscaping. And finally, the garage. The lower decks were expected to be complete in winter of 2014, and then the upper decks in the spring. They are slightly behind schedule on this one, but it was intentional. They have enjoyed the access across what will be the east wing of the garage, the area west of the library, and it's also not on the critical part for the project because the parking garage is independent of building construction and has a lot less of the finishes, and so it is on its own timeline, so it does not impact the contractor's overall schedule for the project. Here is the architectural rendering that we've all seen through the design phases. This is what the architect has drawn up for what the building will look like when we stand on the plaza between the library and the city hall. And the next slide shows you where we are today, and as you can see, things are definitely starting to come together. It looks a lot like what they drew up for us. All the framework is complete. Moving on to the site plan, the two big components in the site work are the stormwater vault west of the building, which was complete in the fall of last year, and the parking garage. So the parking garage itself has these two wings, the west wing closer to the building and the east wing separated by the stormwater detention vault. Most of the work that the contractor has done to date has been on the west wing and the stormwater detention. This is what it looks like. You can see the two walls of the west wing and all the columns. This week, the contractor is actually compacting and will hopefully end the week with the slab for the west wing of the garage. This is the big stormwater detention area. And over here to the right is all the dirt that they had to hold back till the wall of the storm detention vault got to its required strength. And now our site work contractor is all busy and is backfilling. This is from earlier this week. You can see that the contractor has started backfilling, and this is the beginning of the east wing of the parking garage. Moving to the north end of the parking garage, the lower level has a wall, and that's the limit of the north end of the parking garage. So looking back from there, the contractor first finished up the foundation for that wall, and after the concrete was poured, they are now busy working on the rebars and forms for the north wall of the parking garage. Moving on to the building design, I'm going to first show you some exterior elevations and then walk you through the inside. This is the east elevation, and this is what you see from the library. And it's an important elevation, if council will recall. The goal here was to get the building we wanted with all the square footage and all our wants, but at the same time not obstruct the views beyond to both the skyline of Seattle, which is a little difficult to see in this image, but it's right here, as well as the mountains beyond. And so I think we've achieved that goal fairly well. Also, to the lower right here is the entry into the building, which this is a closer view of it. This is the entrance canopy, and these steel columns will be finished off with wood. But this is the main entrance to the building at the upper level. A lot of filling required over here to bring the grades to the base of these steel columns. This is the north elevation. The upper level has the fitness rooms, and the lower level has the lap pool. The south elevation, this is the gymnasium, and these are windows. The fancy term for them is window jewel boxes, and that's because they end up breaking what would otherwise be a really monotonous facade.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
They're called jewel boxes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they pop out of the building and they break up the facade, because otherwise all you'd have is a mass of concrete.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is the west elevation, and essentially has the elevations of the pool and the gymnasium. And once the slide is installed, you would see that sticking out of the building along this side. And finally, this is a view from the lower commons. Again, something which a lot of us were curious to see how all the buildings would relate to each other when they were complete, and we think it's blending in well with the landscape. Okay, so now going inside the building, the main entry, this is what it looks like today. A lot of metal framing underway. Moving into the fitness room. This is a view of the fitness room. The windows on the left will actually overlook the leisure pool below, and the rest of the windows will offer the most spectacular views of the lower commons. Standing at the other end of the fitness room and looking in, this is the elevator shaft in the distance, and then you look onto the building entry. A quick view of the two community rooms at the entry. Again, a lot of metal framing at this time. Moving further into the building, this is a view of the break room, also known as the kitchen, the child watch areas, and then in the far distance is the entry to the jogging track. We also have an outdoor open to sky play area, and that is what it looks like today. And then a few views of the jogging track. I'm not sure when SEVDA took some of the council members out if the concrete was poured at that time, but we do have a jogging track that you will get to walk on the next time you tour the site. And we have a lot of windows on the jogging track. This is one of the views we get from there.
May I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Because you had brought up the jewel windows. So will that ledge have a railing in front of it? Or will you be able to actually walk out into that like it's a balcony?
Actually, it will be finished with windows floor to ceiling, but you will be able to walk out onto it. Right now, what you're seeing here is just the safety railing. So you will actually gain that 2 feet everywhere, which also makes the jogging track more interesting because you.
As Councilmember Valderrama passing by Councilmember Jaron, the Councilmember Jaron needs some safety space there so that he can just pull there.
We're all passing him.
We hasten your departure.
And a fun fact on the jog track is that about 12 laps around the jog track will equal 1 mile.
Great.
And another good milestone is we have poured the first set of stairs. So no more climbing ladders on your next visit to the site.
Oh, good.
Good.
Yeah. Moving on to the lower level, the most exciting construction activity at this time is the leisure pool. So here you see the rebar and the formwork for the floor of the leisure pool, and a lot of intricate piping being closely inspected all the time. This is the volume of the leisure pool. It is double-storied with glue lamp beams and has some large windows, so it should make for a fun space. Also in the distance here is the platform for the slide. The stairs are yet to go in, but that's where the slide will be. Here is a view looking onto the lap pool and the fitness rooms above. And to your right here are windows from the lobby. So from the lobby, you will be able to look down onto the leisure pool. Standing at the upper level in the fitness room, looking down on the pool, this is what it looks like. This is, of course, a few days later when the floor of the pool was poured, and now the forms are going up. The forms are actually being made off-site to the curves that they need to be at. This will be the lazy river here, and they are being assembled at site right now. Moving on to the lap pool, the site contractor is grading for the lap pool. And the most fascinating part of construction has been its standard procedure that they actually build the natatorium, they build the walls and the roof, and then they come back with their construction equipment inside the building and excavate for the pool. So it's been really fascinating to watch. They had to plan and leave one of the walls of the building open so that they could bring the construction equipment in.
Smart contractor, outstanding.
Really?
I really have, I mean, they're so efficient, just unbelievable.
And finally, the third spot is the spa. And I know Sevda's, based on the complexity of construction, she's offered the first ride down the slide to some people. She's offered the first jump in the pool to others, but she's reserved the spa for herself.
Good for her.
And this is the north entrance, which, as I mentioned, the contractor had left open to the end. They did not pour concrete, so they could bring a lot of the equipment in. And they've still left a small section of the lap pool open to finish up the construction for the lap pool. So that's the upper level. The last bit of that is the favorite sun deck. We have the wall, retaining wall that will hold up the sun deck, being formed and actually poured tomorrow. The south end of the building, at the lower level, we have the big gymnasium, and we made sure that the contractor is using this well for staging, so that nobody tries to do an indoor soccer game over there too soon.
That was directed to you.
I know. It started with Jesse, that it just kind of permeated to all staff in the Parks Department.
And finally, my update would not be complete without acknowledging the efforts of our volunteer coordinator, LB, who has been working diligently on the off-site afforestation. And had just, and thank you to all the volunteers who've made time to be out there. We were really nervous if we could get, it's actually close to 6 acres completed in the same amount of time that the building was being constructed, and I believe we are about 75% of the way.
Wonderful.
So at this point, I think, Jesse, would you like to show a couple of time-lapse? We have a couple of time-lapse video cameras up at the site, one from the outside and one of the pool. So would you like to use this?
Let's see if we can pull them up here. Oh. Yeah.
While they're looking and searching for this, I want to thank Anjali and Sevda again. They have been a phenomenal project manager for this very complex, very complicated project. Bless their hearts. Every time we meet, I ask hundreds of questions, and they come back with the answers. They do the research. They're so patient with me. And I can't thank you enough, Anjali, and I can't thank Sevda enough. You guys have been doing a phenomenal job. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ben.
YMCA side, they've been extremely complimentary and enjoyed the partnership and are very pleased with the work and the way they've been able to work together. And I hear that from the jogging track, there's a phenomenal view. That's going to make those miles just slip by.
And they put up with my inspection reports because I do send them time-to-time inspection reports from my office.
Well, should we really tell him what we do with his inspection reports? No. Just kidding. We have two time-lapse videos. One is short. I'm going to show you the interior one first of the pool. We should have music.
Learning Transformers. Running to the sauna.
In the ground? That's amazing to watch.
And that's where we are today.
That is where we are today. And this one is actually this, go ahead. This is the site, and what's fascinating is it's done by month, and it's just. Is it on your monitor? Yeah, no, okay. Okay. So a lot of dirt moving, and then watch what happens as we hit January. By the way, this is time-lapse footage is taken every
15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes. Photo.
Blue sky.
It's a lot of sunny days there.
Yes, they've been so lucky
Very
with the weather.
fortunate this year.
Whoops.
Except for that one day.
So now you can see the building starting to take shape.
This is when I start losing some sleep. The rain.
We had some bad days, didn't we?
So our plan is to keep going with the time-lapse cameras, and by the end of the project, we'll have a complete video from start to finish.
What a great history.
And we
Yeah.
we'll upload these, if not tomorrow, but by the end of the week to our website.
Oh, I was just going to ask if you had done that. That'll be great.
We actually have one through, I think, January on the
Right.
website, and we'll
Oh,
update it.
Yeah. people are really beginning to get very excited about it.
Okay. Any questions on community center? Deputy Mayor Huckabee?
No, I'm sorry.
Nope. Okay. Councilmember Jaron? Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
Just a question, Jesse. You showed the contingency and the fact that we've only used about 200,000 of $1.5 million. And then down below, you had another $1.5 million. Can you explain how we're doing on total contingency then?
Construction contingency on the project is about $200,000. That's from,
That's what we've used.
yeah, that's what
What
we
is
have
the
used.
total contingency in the project then?
At 5%,
That was
I
the
saw
1
two
point-
5%.
and then the 5% for the
There was
project,
two.
so there are two separate contingencies.
Yep. When you authorized the construction contract, you authorized only 5% of what we had set aside. We'd set aside a total of 10% in construction contingency. So you've actually only authorized the city manager to utilize 5%, so that, oh, we're showing the wrong.
So the price of $33,800,000 basically has $3 million of contingency in it. We only used 200,000 so far?
Correct. Sorry, we're having trouble getting that slide back up. There we go.
Does that answer your question, or?
If the correct was the correct answer, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see that slide too, because I wondered myself what that was.
Oh, we almost got it there.
There we go. Oh, it disappeared.
Well, it was there for a second.
There we go.
Up on the big screen, it will come up on
Oh,
our
okay.
monitors in
There we go.
seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is the 5% contingency I was speaking to that was authorized as part of the construction contract, 1.4 million. Of that, we have authorized $200,000 in change orders to date. We still have an additional 5% contingency that was part of the project budget. The council did not authorize that when you awarded the construction contract, but that is still considered part of our project budget.
Oh,
It's
okay.
in the project budget, but when you awarded the contract, you only authorized me 5% of the
Percent.
overall budget contingency, and of which we only used $200,000 so far.
So if we continue to have relatively modest contingencies, we could end up knocking off $1.8 million or $1.7 million of this bottom price?
Possible, but
Hopefully.
I don't want to jinx it. I think
Find some wood.
we've passed the most risky part of the construction. Foundation was that I was most concerned.
Bad soils, basically.
Right.
yeah.
There's still a portion of the foundation is the west wall on the garage that we need to finish that up. And there's still also this minor conflicts that we're almost running into at weekly basis between the electrical and the HVAC and plumbing, but these are small items. Answer to that question, yes, but I want to under-promise, over-deliver to you.
Absolutely.
And I think we are watching it very carefully. And when we meet, we go through anything greater than $400 expenditures with very in-depth details. So, and they're bringing lots of information, they're asking lots of questions, and I'm asking lots of questions. One thing that we're making sure is that we are trying to make the decisions timely, because equipment and material standby status is a cost. And contractor is very appreciative of that we're working with him in partner. But we're also making sure that we got the right information before we make the decision.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your,
Yeah.
All the credit to Anjali, obviously. Jessie was off, but she was intensely involved in the planning and designing and awarding and partnering, a lot of aspects of this project too. So, and she actually was helping us while she was taking some time off through the phone calls and the emails and et cetera. So, and Jessie, thank you also for all your hard work on this project.
thank you. Yes. Okay, next we have public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the council. We allow 3 minutes limit per person, or 5 minutes if you represent the official position of a recognized community organization. Keep in mind, if you would like in the future to have a PowerPoint or some other presentation, you can let the city clerk know about that by 5 p.m. Of the day of the meeting. So too late for tonight, but keep that in mind. So I have a list. I have Todd Southwick. Please.
I have some representative props for you. And I believe we have a PowerPoint presentation. Again, this is for the Tamarack neighborhood. My name is Todd Southwick. My address is 413 209th Avenue Northeast, City of Sammamish, 98074. And we get the PowerPoint up front here. Okay, there we go. So this is my front yard. I just want to show this once more. These large porous areas in my front yard are the development over time of water seepage that collects up on the street above my lot. There are 3 very large sinkholes. It was mowed yesterday, and I'll move along to the next one here where we get a little bit more representation. You can see the 2x4 and one of the bottles, this large bottle is sitting in a hole there. And that's about 10 to 12 inches deep, and it's over 5 feet by 3 feet. Here is another one. When I go through this with the lawnmower, of course, the lawnmower takes a big dive and comes out and typically spins the back wheels. I have a puller Honda mower that pulls and spins the wheels to get through this. You can see with the can and the bottle there, the depth of those holes. These are getting closer, much closer to the foundation of my home. And this one is represented, I think that's about a 10-foot board to that area there with the sinkhole. The downhill impact at 413 209th Avenue, my home address, is due to existing uphill ditch water standing on the street. I've shown numerous PowerPoint presentations over the past few weeks of this, and insufficient detention pond leaks that seep under the road chronically, day and night, whether the weather is dry or not. And I would like to see something done by the City Council, if we could, in 2015. It's a long, long wait with this encroaching area on my home and my foundation. And I thank you very much for your time today. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Mary Wichter?
Hi, my name is Mary Wichter. I live at 408 208th Avenue Northeast in Sammamish, Washington. And I do have a PowerPoint, but I see I've got her busy. I do want to thank you for the last meeting we were here. You did take a vote after great presentations by Laura Philpott and also Cheryl on the Tamarack stormwater. And we're glad that you did vote to put an initial phased offering of that in 2016 for about $275,000, I think. So today I'm here to talk about Tamarack stormwater again. And I've done a big study of the area, and I wanted to relate what I've learned about the taxes that we pay for surface water fees. When I did research, my own home, I've lived there since 2000. I paid about $2,300 just in surface water taxes over the years. Originally, it was about $85 to $105, and there was a 10-year period where $150 was paid annually per home. And then I believe Laura Philpott and company, as part of the capital improvement project, started increasing that in the last couple years. And I believe the intent, Ben had stated at the last meeting, that you guys are going to be increasing that 2.5% per year. So over the time that just the Tamarack neighborhood, the homes that are there and have been built there, we've put in about $310,000 just in surface water taxes, just for our subdivision. And this next year, you'll collect about another $35,000 that's actually collected by King County and then I believe given to the city. So looking at 2015 on my tax bill, which I am paying, $209 goes for surface water, and that goes to any single-family home residence. Does not matter if you have a really small home on a small lot and you're really old growth and vegetated, or if you're a really big home on a big lot with maybe sparse landscaping. Tlingit, which is located west of Tamarack, has 28 homes built. Montage has 58. That's located southeast of us. And both those neighborhoods have stormwater, curb and gutter, lights, standard things that you would see. Tamarack, however, we are 166 homes built. We have 210 total lots. Just as a compare and contrast. If you're on a quarter-acre lot, we're currently R4 zoned. If you have a structure, you pay the same amount of surface water as somebody with a home on 16 or more acres, according to my research. For example, there's an old water tower in Tamarack in Division 1 on Lot 14. It's right adjacent to one of Barrington's lots, which is a 6-acre lot with one house on it. They'll demolish, and they'll be putting 44 homes in. So Barrington pays the same amount as a single house does. And then vacant lots do not pay any surface water because it's just land and it hasn't been built with a structure yet, according to my research. So Tamarack subdivision from 2000 to this year has basically had 40 new homes built in it. So we've been like a new subdivision, even though we're an old historic plat from 1964. And you'll see between 2004 and 2007, during the big housing bubble, there were 25 homes put in. So that was like putting a subdivision within our subdivision. And we still have 40 vacant lots left for the future, which is yet another division within our division, which is why you repeatedly see me coming to the council meetings. Some of the things that we've noticed during development in Tamarack, and I've lived there 15 years, since 2000, I think some of the issues that we experience could be reduced, first of all, by the drainage that you're staging and phasing to put in. But we have roadways, and even though they're private, there are standards for compaction. We have road maintenance agreements, and the developers need to be aware of those, and any permitting done in the area needs to be respectful of those. Currently, there are no performance bonds for any work done. If they were instated, people doing construction and landscaping, they'd be able to get it back if they get their stuff done, but if they don't, there would be money to help work on the issues that we've been experiencing, like you've seen with Todd. Surface water should be paid for by the developer. Lots could be charged surface water when they are first given their clear and grade permit, rather than only after the development is done. And if you end up with a slow or stalled building project that takes 8 or 10 years to do, they would be paying money in addition to doing their temporary erosion and sediment control. And then finally, if you have had surface water taxes charged to you, you have to pay off your taxes before you sell your lot, so that ensures that the developer will pay. And then there can be code violations that could be added to those charges too. So those are some of the ideas that I came up with. I'm sorry I've overrun my 3 minutes, but there's a lot of time and preparation that goes into preparing this material. And I thank you for listening and maybe taking some of our suggestions to get a little bit more money to the city to deal with drainage in our area. Thank you.
Next is Bob McNeil.
Travel a lot, so we missed the earlier meeting regarding East Lake Sammamish Trail. I'm Bob McNeil. We live at, 400, but we also own property at 229 East Lake Sammamish Parkway. And we'd just like to add our voices to the notion to encourage you to, or at least our position, to support the trail as is from end to end, unvaried, at least to the greatest degree possible, and varied in width and shoulder width, for 3 reasons, principally. First, safety. It is our direct experience that when you vary the trail widths, or even in some cases the shoulders, you run a much greater probability of collisions and other problems. Second, posterity. The way we look at this, if all goes well, We should hope that not only ourselves, but there will be countless numbers of other folks who use this trail for the next several centuries, we would like to think. So we would urge us all to consider building it right and as best we can from start to finish. And third, for purposes of community. We've heard a lot about the very laudable community service and so forth that is done. And it seems that although we're lucky enough to live along the lake and so forth, most of Sammamish is not. And we would like to think that that trail will be a useful trail for the entire community and again, not only our generation, but generations hence. So in short, we would urge you to, or we would hope that the city will not frustrate or delay further a project which has taken about as long as the Iliad and the Odyssey comprise, about 20 years together, all told, and also to just minimize any variations in width, again, for safety, posterity, and our community at large. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here for public comment? Anyone else for public comment? Dan? Public comment is closed. Thank you very much. Okay, under new business, we have several resolutions. Mr. City Manager. Do you want to take a 5-minute break?
10.
Okay. It always ends up being 10, so 5 and come back in 10 minutes. We'll do that.
As Ben said, this is Parks Night. And the first item, well, actually, I think we're going to have a presentation to encompass several of the items tonight, and then we're going to handle each resolution as it goes forth and have discussion on each resolution. So we'll leave it at that. So without further ado, Parks Department.
Is your microphone on, Lyman?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe it is.
Good.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. I do need to acknowledge Carrie Sand, our city attorney. Carrie got roped into reviewing our parks ordinance last year, and then by default, we asked her to take on the policies as well. And I know this is not fun work, but I've really appreciated her assistance. Joining me is Joanna Martin. She's our recreation supervisor, and for a number of years also managed our facilities and still oversees facility rentals as part of her job duties. So you have a big chunk of material in your packet, and what I've tried to do through this presentation is to simplify things. So I'd like to run through it, and then we can take the policies individually if you'd like, or at your pleasure. You have 6 policies that address facility use or facility rentals. I wanted to just speak to the first 2 because they're a little bit different. Co-sponsorship for city facility use is a policy that we implemented in 2007 to deal with, at the time, the onslaught of requests for partnerships for special events. So we were just getting, I don't know, almost once a week a request to partner for a fun run or a triathlon, and that was what brought about that policy. Nonprofit policy really speaks to our nonprofit community groups using our facilities at a discounted rate, up to 4 hours for free per month. The others speak for themselves, so we're addressing all 6 tonight. The background, we adopted all these policies for the first time in 2007, and the great news is, and we spent a lot of time, I know some of you were on the council at that time, they came back, they went through Park Commission, they came back to council repeatedly. We really vetted them well. The good news is things are going really well. The policies are not broken. We did an audit earlier this year, and I use the term loosely, but basically we asked WACIA to look at our policies. We asked Carrie to take a look at our policies, and those 2 reviews identified changes that we needed to make. We also went back and looked at our own operating practices and realized we had some things that weren't consistent with how we're managing facility rentals, and then a handful of minor edits. The one thing I wanted to mention is that we're not talking about rental fees tonight. We are doing a rental fee analysis, and we'll be bringing that back to you in the future. I'm thinking fall right now, but I need to confirm with the city manager. Okay, so really quickly, this is an overview of the changes that were made to all or most of the policies, and I will go quickly. The first thing, and don't panic, I did not copy and paste the text for all the policies here. I did it twice where I wasn't able to describe the change. Every policy has a section on non-discrimination. We just added the words "or any other unlawful basis." So you'll see this in all 6 policies. We also have a section on non-endorsement that was, I think, in 3 or 4 of the policies. So where it was missing, we added it, and then we revised the language based on what you see here on the screen. Again, that's not too... We had a section on firearms, prohibiting firearms in our facilities. That was in the City Hall, the Beaver Lake Lodge, athletic fields, and picnic shelter policies. That has been stricken. We can't do that. That's my non-legal explanation for that. Liability, here again, I didn't copy and paste the entire section, but all the policies contain a section on liability. The language here is provided by WCIA, so they did ask us to modify the language, and again, I've got an abbreviated version of that section here. And I'm not going to read that. Insurance. This is where WCIA, and I apologize, that's Washington City's Insurance Authority. They are our insurance company. Our policies were very vague. They said, well, basically, if the Parks and Recreation Director says you need insurance, then you're going to need insurance. And I think actually Councilmember Huckabee pointed this out to me a couple months ago that she wanted to see that tightened up. So sure enough, when we talked to WCIA, they actually had a checklist of items that they recommend would trigger the need for commercial general liability insurance. And these things were added to the appropriate policies. So if alcohol is served, if the event is open to the public, if admission fees are collected, if law enforcement or security is required as part of the event, all 4 of those things, any one of those would require commercial general liability insurance. For athletic fields, we rent to leagues, and this isn't just the league renting one day. This is the league renting multiple dates over a number of months. That would require insurance. By the way, all of our leagues do carry insurance, so this is not an issue. Tournament play, it's rare that we have tournaments on our fields. We just don't have the extra time. But if we did host a tournament, we would require the tournament organizers to have insurance. And for anything else that comes up, so we still do have this catch-all category. It's hard to point to what might come up, but sometimes things do where we say, you know what, there's risk here. We need you to get insurance. So this was changed across all the policies. Also, minor changes, we changed the deadline for the certificate of insurance to make sure it's in our office well in advance of the event. We've also changed the language for liquor liability. So if groups are serving alcohol, the actual certificate needs to have some language indicating as such. The other thing I'll point out, and it's been asked previously, is does this present a barrier for rental groups? And fortunately, WCIA offers a program. It's called the Tenant User Liability Insurance Program. So any one of our rental groups, because we are a member of WCIA, can purchase insurance through WCIA. So we're not, we've created some criteria for insurance, but we also have an option if they're not able to get it through their own homeowner's insurance. All right, moving on. Damage deposits, I actually thank Councilmember Huckabee. She flagged this one for me as well a few months ago. We had an arbitrary threshold for damage deposits. We've changed that. For City Hall, we moved the threshold, attendance threshold from 30 to 100 for the damage deposit requirement, and from 50 to 100 at Beaver Lake Lodge. We also require damage deposits if groups are serving alcohol, and there's a couple of other things, but this threshold was really low, and it's rare that we have to retain a damage deposit. In fact, I think in my time here, we've only withheld 1. So that's damage deposits. Alcohol, we clarified a section. Basically, alcohol is not permitted outside of our building, so nowhere in the park. However, the Beaver Lake Lodge, the front porch, we consider an extension of the lodge. So we just clarified that it is fine to have alcohol there, but do not step off that porch into the hot lava of the park, right? You can tell I have kids now. We do all these fun things at home. We've always had a section in our policies on banquet permits. Some of you are probably familiar if you've had a wedding or a private reception, you get a banquet permit. WCIA asked us to also spell out the special occasion license. So that's a special permit that nonprofit groups can obtain if they are selling alcohol at their event. It is still not allowed. For-profit groups are not allowed to sell alcohol. That's a whole nother, that's a whole nother issue, not something that we would address here. Also, our attorney added a section clarifying that legal responsibility for alcohol consumption rests with the applicant, so while they're consuming and when they leave the premises. And something to note too, these policies don't just live on this document. When groups are reserving facilities from us, they are citing a document that has all of these things on there. So that's how we use these policies. And alcohol service is only allowed at the lodge and at City Hall. So that's the two policies those changes apply to. Inflatables, once again, your parks director is in front of you taking all the fun out of parks. When I called WCIA and said, hey, what do you want us to do with inflatables? They said, we hate inflatables. I think that was a direct quote. We'd prefer that our members not use them. And that's, you've seen on the news, there's been some real serious injuries, not just broken arms, but
these are insurance people. Of course they're going to tell you that.
Yeah.
I know, but before they even said that, I was recommending a huge section of bolded, all caps, release, hold harmless, disclaimer language that I was asking Jesse to have every applicant personally sign. And I had this little note at the bottom saying, you know, it might be simpler to just not allow inflatables, but I'll defer to you on that. And then when WCIA took the position that they did, frankly, that just made it an easy decision for Jesse and me, right?
yeah. I know.
So
You know-
Jesse, does this apply to the 4th of July?
No, this only applies to private rental groups.
Oh, okay.
So of the picnic shelter rentals, we did, under our old policies, allow inflatables. Of the 200-plus shelter rentals we have a year, I think about 20 actually brought in inflatables. But the piece that's really administratively burdensome is inflatables are regulated by the Department of Labor and Industries. So for us to have, for a private group to come in with an inflatable, it has to be a licensed, regulated inflatable that's been inspected. They have to prove to us they have the paperwork, and they also have to carry insurance. So you can imagine for a $100 picnic shelter rental, we've now, the staff time that has gone into just managing the paperwork that we need to have, you know, on hand to have that inflatable is far exceeded the revenue we're bringing in. We also talked to our peer cities, and between Redmond and Issaquah, one of them has already done away with inflatables, and the other one is still allowing them, but I think headed that direction. So we can still have inflatables at our events and co-sponsored events, but we are no longer allowing them per the recommendation of these policies for picnic shelter rentals. All right. Minor edits. You'll see some modified definitions, some deleted, some amended. You'll also see we had you may recall when we amended the parks ordinance last year that we changed, we now prohibit tobacco products in our parks, and our policies were amended to be consistent with that. I just have a few more slides, and I wanted to hit on some specific changes that apply to just one policy or another. For the co-sponsorship policy, and this is a pretty big change, we are now recommending a 100% fee waiver. The previous policy indicated when somebody comes in and is requesting a co-sponsorship, it's at the discretion of the city manager or their designee, likely me, to set the rate. And as Carrie pointed out in her review, that really sets us up for some potential problems because I can arbitrarily select rates for groups. So what I'm recommending is if somebody's approved for a full fee waiver or for co-sponsorship, we just waive the rental fee altogether. That doesn't mean there won't be other fees that apply. So I'll give you an example. The Nightmare at Beaver Lake is a co-sponsored event. They already have a fee waiver. We do not charge them for use of our facilities. In fact, we don't charge them for staff time or anything. So they've got a 100% fee waiver, but the facility rental fee is waived. The farmers market is another example. They use their co-sponsored event, they use our facilities, we waive the fees entirely. So I don't see, I think this is consistent with what we're already doing. And I don't have any concerns. For the nonprofit policy, political activities, we did add a section that clarifies political activities, so campaigns and fundraising do not qualify for free facility use under this nonprofit policy. That was not previously included in that. The application process, the old policy identified this kind of strange annual application process to qualify for nonprofit status that we've never used, so we just took it out. Basically, if you're a community group and you meet the criteria and the policy, we process your reservation application like we do all others, which is on a first-come, first-served basis. By the way, all these images are actually from our parks and our events. Reservations, we did make one change to both the nonprofit policy and the city hall policy. When we originally adopted the policy for use of city hall, we were concerned about both weekday and weekend use, and we only allowed groups to reserve this room 2 months out for weekend use. As, I don't know, 7+ years have gone by, we have not had a problem with weekend use. It's pretty light here. So we are recommending to extend the reservation time period out to 12 months, which is consistent with the Beaver Lake Lodge. So this room would be reservable for private groups and nonprofit use 12 months out. Athletic fields, a few more changes here, but really lots of low-hanging fruit. We have a priority scheduling process that we implemented to allocate field time. And for the fall time period, we moved the scheduling deadline back to May 1st. It was June 1st, but we've realized that doesn't give us enough time to get the fall schedules out. So that's what we've actually been doing for a while. Now we've just changed the date in the policy as well. We also have had some changes over the last couple of years with the fields are available at the community sports fields, and also the block booking schedule we follow. So we've amended our policies to mirror what's in the interlocal agreements. Again, we're doing this already, so no big changes here. This is a silly one, but we wanted to put it in. We often get groups that don't want to turn the field lights on. They just say, we can play in the dark. But because there is a cost to play on the fields when the lights are required, we can't allow that. Yeah, it's a safety issue. So again, a simple amendment to the policy that says, hey, if you're playing after dusk, the lights will have to be on. There's a whole section on general rules regarding primarily the community sports fields. And as you read these, you probably are thinking we've obviously had some issues, and we have. You know, the investment we make in the turf, not only to install the synthetic turf, but to maintain it is significant. So we treat it like a Cadillac component of our system. Basically, the section says that, yes, we will allow you to bring in specialized equipment, but you have to approve it in advance. We will work with you to put special striping and markings on the field, but you have to approve it in advance. And anything else you want to do to the fields, we will definitely consider, but you have to, again, approve it in advance. Section 5.07B, which is the second bullet, actually speaks more to the natural turf fields, the grass fields, saying that if you drive your vehicle out there and you cause damage, you're responsible. And if you're wondering, yes, this does happen. Well-meaning folks trying to perform maintenance on our fields create ruts that are 4 or 5 inches deep and require quite a bit of repair to get the fields put back together. Not to say that everyone does bad things on our fields. We actually have lots of users doing great things. Animals prohibited. This is another sort of policy outlier. When we updated our municipal code, our parks ordinance, we now prohibit animals on athletic fields. So we amended the policy to reflect that change in the ordinance. And just last but not least, the picnic shelters. When I've shared with you before, our picnic shelters are really in high demand, especially Ebright Creek and Pine Lake Park. And when we adopted these policies, we wanted to give residents the advantage. So residents can book picnic shelters on January 1st. Our current policy, or old policy, said non-residents can only book 2 months in advance of the date. Well, we've been testing this for a while, and we think that's overly restrictive. The good shelter times go right out of the gates, and it hasn't been an issue. So we'd like to change the non-resident reservation date to March 1st. So our residents still have a two-month jump on all picnic shelter reservations. Another thing I'll tell you is, especially Pine Lake, because it's the prime picnic shelter on the lake, if you're a non-resident and your family's been coming here for the last 10 years, they typically are finding a way to get around this anyway. They team up with a resident and book the shelter anyway. So I don't blame them. It's a beautiful shelter. It's a beautiful park. So that is my really quick overview of all the changes, both the general ones and some of the specialty ones.
Okay, questions? Deputy Mayor Huckabee.
Yes, I have a question, especially about the nonprofit groups that can make reservations. I understand Kiwanis, Boys and Girls Scouts, and Rotary and so forth, but what about the women's quilting group or a book group or whatever, maybe radio control group? Just community groups that would like to have monthly meetings or quarterly meetings. Are they eligible to do this, or do they have to find a nonprofit group to sponsor them?
When we wrote these policies, we did identify nonprofit as an organization, I'm reading the definition, whose principal purpose is public service and is recognized as a 501c, oops, there's a typo there. No, there's not, 501c organization under the Internal Revenue Code. So that would mean your quilting club that is not a 501c would not be eligible for use under this policy.
And I think that therein lies some of the complaints about finding meeting spaces, because there are organizations that may not be 501c3 or 501 whatever organizations, but it's the large book group, it's the quilting group, or women might want to gather one day a month to do quilting together and are not able to find space for that. So I think when we'll still hear the complaints about lack of meeting space.
It's interesting, when we adopted this policy the first time in 2007, the council had already directed staff to make 4 hours a month available to groups. What was happening at the time is we were getting a lot of groups from outside of Sammamish. And so this is when it says nonprofit organizations based in the city of Sammamish that maintain a membership consisting of at least 50%. So we really locked in on Sammamish. So what's interesting is since that time, our requests for nonprofit use has really tailed off. So I think we solved the problem, and maybe we created another one by making it overly restricted for Sammamish residents. I can tell you, based on our little research effort we did this week to look at availability, if the council desired to make a change to allow, and I think I'm not quite sure how we'd have to do this, we'd have to maybe talk. If you wanted to make this policy a little more flexible, I think there's room to do so. We definitely have space available.
And I would point out that one of the things that will happen when the community center comes online, we also will have additional community rooms there that are available for
Maybe a little less
residents.
restrictive?
Probably a little less restrictive.
They are.
Not entirely sure. Dave Meyer came to our Kiwanis meeting, and I've had some conversations with him. And for example, out in Snoqualmie, there was a group of men who like to do the radio-controlled little...
Ham radio?
No,
The
the
radio-controlled
radio-controlled airplanes or helicopters, and they gather together to share information. That's not a 501c3 group. They certainly could meet at the Y, but there's certainly, I'm not quite sure why, if there's available space at Beaver Lake, they couldn't gather there as well. So I would lean toward maybe trying to...
Being a little less restrictive.
A little less restrictive, assure that it's Sammamish residents primarily that are using it, but maybe open it to other groups that are not as, maybe haven't had the opportunity or have chosen not to file for a 501c3, because that's an expensive proposition.
Councilmember Jarrett.
Thank you. I've got several questions, but to follow up on what Kathy said, I just happen to have with me a little bookmark by Sammamish Friends. Why don't you pass those down? Sammamish Friends is a 501c3, And we support these organizations that are not 501c3s: Sammamish Walks, Sammamish Nature Club, Sammamish Community Gardens, Sammamish Community Wildlife Habitat, Sammamish Trail Stewards, and Sammamish Native Plant Stewards, and perhaps some other groups. So I suppose that technically then Sammamish Friends could make the reservation for these organizations.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, our administration of that sort of thing is fairly liberal and generous. So Girl Scout troops, for example, don't have 501c3 status, but we certainly know their parent organization does. So we welcome those groups. Yeah, so we're really trying to be flexible.
And just while I'm here holding it, we also are sponsoring Jumping Jive to Thrive gift basket. March 7th, April 18th, Earth Day, July 4th, the Kid Zone, which we did last year also. July 29th and August 19th, Farmers Market, there will be a booth. August 22nd, Sammamish Days, visit our booth. So I've put in a little plug for Sammamish Friends, and
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. And Jump and Jive is part of Kiwanis, but
there you go.
the Girl
That's a Kiwanis
Scouts,
event,
like
yeah.
so many other organizations, they file under an umbrella 501c3, similar to Kiwanis and Rotary. Each individual group doesn't have that designation necessarily, but there's a national designation that we come under that umbrella.
So if you want to learn more about Sammamish Friends, go to sammamishfriends.org. Now, I still have some questions for...
Sure.
After that infomercial?
Entertain making reservations for other community organizations?
Well, it sounds like we are.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say, though, I purchased the gift basket from Sammamish Friends at the Jump and Jive.
Well, very good.
Again, additional product placement.
Yes, absolutely.
I had a couple questions. Jesse, in the co-sponsorship one, you mentioned that phrase, organizations must be based in the city of Sammamish and maintain a membership consisting of at least 50%. This is item 9 on page 2, 3.01. And I'm questioning, in a co-sponsorship, is it necessary to be based in Sammamish? I really don't see that, because if we're co-sponsoring it, obviously it's to the benefit of our community.
Right. So this is the policy that really, co-sponsorship really speaks to major events. And again, historically, the time this policy was put in place, it was because we were being inundated with requests, particularly for 5Ks, 10Ks, triathlons. And our park system simply, and our road system simply could not accommodate, and they were all from outside Sammamish. So we didn't want to exclude our Sammamish groups, at the time, the Beaver Lake Triathlon, the Nightmare, the Farmers Market, but we had to draw the line. So that's what this speaks to. And if you desire to change that, I think that would be fine. You have other criteria in place.
I would suggest that perhaps we could say that it doesn't have to be based in Sammamish, but if it maintains a membership consisting of at least 50% of the city of Sammamish residents. So I guess if when we get to have a motion on the table, I'll ask for an amendment on that.
This is the co-sponsorship policy, page 2, and he's referring to section 3.01, eligibility for
That's tab
co-sponsorship.
9.
Tab 9, 3.01 on page 2.
And it's the language based in the city of Sammamish that you're questioning.
Right.
Councilmember, you have more?
I've got a couple more.
Couple more, okay.
In tab 10, on Exhibit 2, page 3, where we talk about political activities. It says, for example, campaign purposes, fundraising events. I have a question. What about candidate forums that would be co-sponsored by the city, I guess? Yeah. So I bring up the question, I don't see why we can't have that in the city facility, so.
Councilmember Jaron, I can weigh in on that if
Good.
you want. The reason we don't list campaign forums is because we did some research about this, and under our based on our research, the Public Disclosure Commission has provided some advisory interpretation of state law on that point. And the applicable state law is 42.17A.555.
That just rolls off your tongue.
Well, I have my notes here because I anticipated this question.
Oh.
Because this is an important point. I'm so glad you raised it. So what I wanted to make the council aware of is that the Public Disclosure Commission has advised that to the extent facilities are made available on an equal access and non-discriminatory basis for a variety of uses, and it's part of the normal and regular activity of the jurisdiction, which if you look at the provision in 42.17A.555, you'll see that there is an exception, sub 3, for the normal and regular activity. And so, again, if it's provided on this equal access, non-discriminatory basis, if all candidates are allowed to participate, if it's an open forum, open to everyone, then that would be allowed, and that's why it's not listed as one of the examples.
But it is a political activity.
It is a political activity, so we can clarify the language to specifically carve that out, so it's really clear that candidate forums are allowed.
I would appreciate that. So
Sure.
when we get that motion on the table, perhaps you can help me with an addendum amendment. And then I had one other question, that is on tab 12, on page 1, the definition of dusk. I have a suggestion there. It says the time at which the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon. I would ask, how do you measure that? But actually, if you know a little bit of astronomy, you know that's 24 minutes after the sun goes below the horizon. And so I would suggest instead of 6 degrees, why don't we simply make it a half hour?
Half hour after sunset?
That's fine. We do refer also to the civil twilight schedule, and we were just going to rely on the civil twilight schedule, which I'm sure is based on minutes rather than degrees.
That's in, I think, 3 of these tabs, if I'm not mistaken. So that's all the comments I have at this point.
Councilmember Valderrama?
Yes, thank you, Jesse. I'm assuming that on the co-sponsorship that marijuana is not being cited because it's covered under another state law, is that correct?
Yep, correct, it's not
correct.
addressed.
And I'd also be remiss as a Rotarian not to say what a great co-sponsorship we have in the Nightmare of Beaver Lake, which was as of last year, the biggest in King County for charitable activities. Going to tab 10, as we start looking at campaign activities that are being cited there, you might understand that campaign activities, aside from the candidate forums, can at a fee rent facilities from the city. Is that correct? The way that this is written, they're just excluded from having those fees waived, is how I read it.
That's correct. They can rent, but they cannot produce campaign materials, but they can hold meetings.
They can have meetings there.
Correct.
And then for the campaign, going back to the definition, and I believe, Carrie, you were the one who on February 17th said that the political campaign issues are those that are on ballots. Is that correct?
I honestly don't remember verbatim what I said on February 17th, but I will take your word for it.
Okay.
Don't remember.
Well, that to be considered a campaign issue would be something that would be appearing on a ballot versus just a policy advocacy that's being done for whether animals or any other cause.
I mean, that does seem consistent with my understanding of state law, is that we're talking about ballot measures, ballot propositions,
Candidates.
candidates,
Yeah.
anything that would appear in your local voters pamphlet.
Okay, all right. Okay, let me see if there's any other one. I have a question for you, Jesse, on page 3, tab 10, exhibit 2, page 3. On the hours of the designated facilities and the use of those, these are set aside type of activities for the hour. So for example, it's been typical for all of us to have the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts come in either before or after council hours. So would those be excluded from these designated facility hours here? Tonight,
So-
for example,
Yeah.
or last month.
This is my interpretation is when council members are holding meetings, and I presume that's oftentimes in a small group, you're welcome to use City Hall for your council member meetings. When groups are holding activities here, events, their own meetings, then that is a rental or use of the facility, and it would not be eligible under these policies.
Exempt, so like the 20 that we just had here, that Nancy and I brought in, so that would not count under these hours, that we could continue to do that before or after.
Well, it's interesting because I know you and I have talked about this. The Boy Scouts appear to be coming into, I'm not sure exactly what you were having a meeting with them and then they attended a council meeting, correct?
That's correct, and sometimes they'll come after the council meeting, sometimes before, and this, where we were talking about some of their Eagle Scout requirements.
And I believe we've hosted the Boy Scouts for as long as I've been here and likely longer, so I'm not sure. To me, there is a distinct difference between that group and then the Girl Scouts who are here actually holding a program in our facility in the evening hours that just by coincidence, they've also invited, I know you've participated, but I would consider that a rental, and I don't believe it meets the criteria of our policies. Because
Well,
we
my question
don't,
is, if the Girl Scouts were then to come before a council meeting or afterwards, just as we've just had the Boy Scouts and we've been doing, all of us have been doing that for years, that would then be acceptable.
well, in that case, are they meeting with you? Because the Girl Scout groups that have been here, and I'm speaking to the last couple of months, they've been troops from outside the city, and it really has been a program. I realize there's a gray area here, so maybe there's something I'm missing. If Kiwanis wanted to come and hold a meeting here on a Thursday evening, they would not be allowed. If a Kiwanis member was meeting with you, during your office hours or something, that's certainly permissible. So I don't know, I'm maybe looking to the deputy city manager.
I'm
for some
thinking that
guidance.
if we could draw draw a conclusion that it would be an extension of this particular meeting to meet with constituents or their constituents' children, citizens, et cetera, as probably a form of education for them, for a civic lesson, that would be allowed. It would not be a separate type of meeting, but more or less an extension of this particular council meeting.
I'm just trying to grapple between the numbers. So for example, we just had 20 here, and that's okay. And so I'm just trying to figure out what's the...
I think we just have to use some logic on that. 20, I think, is you look at this room, 20 would be probably something we could handle. We're exposing them to the council meeting, et cetera. But if it were to be 80, that might be a bit much.
Okay.
So
Something else,
If I could just, for clarification,
Sure.
for the way to discussion, are you talking that the club that was here today had a meeting prior to having their ceremony that was part of our council event? They actually did use the facility
Yeah, we
as a
used
meeting?
the executive,
Okay.
we used it for, where we sat down and we talked about their program for their requirements for the Eagle Scouts. And that's something that we've been doing for years, both before and after these council meetings for convenience.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier than to bring in their constituent parents. So to see where I'm just trying to, in my own mind, get that distinction of where's the line as to how many before you then tell them, no, we need to schedule a separate facility time to be set up.
if I may, perhaps one of the other challenges that we have to deal with this facility is on Tuesday nights, we're all here, we have staff in the building. So when the Boy Scouts come in for a meeting with you folks before, it's not a problem. The other nights of the week, we do not staff this building, and therefore there is a cost if we are going to extend evening use to nonprofits for us to have someone here. Not to mention the fact that the reason we excluded weekends, or excuse me, weeknights, not weekends, I apologize, is that we often have a lot of meetings at night, for better or worse, council meetings, park commission, planning commission, arts commission, and public meetings. And so we've had to develop this policy based around our number one priority, which is conducting city business in City Hall. Beaver Lake Lodge, whole nother story. We have a key, we have a lockbox, we give you the key, we do not staff it unless it's a large group or a weekend group that's serving alcohol. You have full flexibility to access that building. So we are talking about apples and oranges in terms of the type of the facility.
Yeah. But my question then, going back to these hours, we can continue to bring in small, up to 20-some people of our constituents either before or after the council meeting. Those can continue to go forward.
I would say so, yes.
That would be exempt from these hours. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Deputy Mayor Huckabee?
I want to go back to the political activity and get some real clarification there as to what we can do. First of all, does that fall under the nonprofit? Because it's on page, Exhibit 2, nonprofit use of facilities, page 2. Oh, 10. On page 2 and 3. It's on page 3 that it talks about political activities, but that's under the policy for nonprofits.
I can let Jesse elaborate, but my understanding is that we put it in this policy because oftentimes nonprofit groups host candidate forums or political activities, and so we thought that that was a good fit in this policy. Did you want
I'm
to?
comfortable with that. I mean, our Kiwanis Club has sponsored forums for years. What I was getting at, more to the point, is if Connie comes into the city, can the 5th District Democrats or the 5th District Republicans or the 45th District Democrats or Republicans meet here on a regular basis? Can a candidate running for any office, city council, state, national office, can they have a meeting here, and what are the parameters around that meeting? Is it just a meeting to meet the candidate? Can they put out campaign signs or literature? We're getting into a campaign season, presidential campaign season. Certainly, there'll be other campaigns. Everybody is looking for space to either operate their campaign or have a campaign meeting. I'd like to see a little more clarification and understanding around that and what can and cannot be done.
We have actually, I can address part of that. We have rented to a number of the groups you just named at full price, according to the other policies, the Beaver Lake Lodge, the City Hall policy.
Sure.
We do not waive the fees for those groups. So they certainly have rented the lodge on numerous occasions.
But they have to be a nonprofit first, no? Or just a political?
We don't even, if you're coming in as a full paying rental,
You don't worry about that?
we don't worry about
Okay.
that. It's only for a fee waiver that we would require the nonprofit status.
Okay.
And the issue with the waiving of the fee for political purposes would be basically the use at less than cost for a political purpose. So essentially, the city would be utilizing its resources for a particular political issue, which would be
If
precluded
somebody
from the-
were to rent full price, they could certainly have a political meeting here, including handing out campaign literature and raising funds. Is that all?
No, I don't believe they can generate campaign literature or engage in specific campaigning activities of the nature that you're describing. Instead, it would need to be a candidate forum, like what was described earlier, and that's why, I've got some proposed language ready to address the amendment suggested by Councilmember Jaron on that point, because I do think clarification would be very helpful on this. And I understand why there's all these questions coming up, given that we're getting ready to launch headlong into campaign season. So I think these are good questions. I appreciate them, and I anticipated that they would be asked. But going back to your examples about the different types of group, as Jesse indicated, as long as everyone's being treated fairly and consistently, they have to pay, and it's on a first-come, first-served basis. It is part of the normal, regular conduct of city business. It just can't cross that line into generating campaign materials, distributing campaign materials, those types of uses that are prohibited under that same provision that I cited earlier of the RCW.
Okay, thank you. That's
May I
really
just-
helpful.
I hate to get into too much detail on that, but
But no, I think it's helpful if we do.
yeah, if somebody wanted to rent City Hall here or the council chambers, and it was a political group, and, they were campaigning, but they weren't handing literature out, they were having their speakers come up and that, but could they put a trifold sign out on somewhere that said, this is the location that you would be coming to? Could they do something like that?
Well, if you're
Not political,
describing
but-
a directional sign, that would be allowed.
Yeah,
So
It's a
they-
directional sign.
correct. I've seen those before in this.
Was blue or red balloons?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I keep asking, because even at the campaign forums, sometimes it's because people are coming, many candidates want to put their materials out. So it sounds like even a campaign forum would be precluded from allowing candidates to put their materials out, if what I'm hearing correctly. But
Correct.
I would see it more handing it out to the public. If they had people coming to the event that they were giving them political materials to, but if they were standing in the lobby and handing it out to anybody that walked by, that would.
Well, let's see what Carrie has to
Yeah.
say.
Well, what I was going to say is, again, the distinction, as I understand it, based on state law and also advisory guidance provided by the Public Disclosure Commission, is that there is this distinction between campaigning activities, the active distribution of leaflets, pamphlets, stickers, buttons, hats, those types of things, as compared to an open public forum for debate and a First Amendment expression of opinions and platforms and philosophies and things like that. So, I understand there's some gray here, and it seems your questions are really focused on the gray areas. And so, this policy is intended to provide guidance, while at the same time, we certainly can't address every possible scenario. And so, if you have these specific questions throughout the campaign season, I really do encourage you to ask them, offline. We can discuss it, try to provide more guidance and clarity to you. But again, I don't anticipate that we could ever craft a policy that could foresee every nuanced gray area type situation.
I very much appreciate that, because the Kiwanis Club has had a history of doing campaign forums in the community, and obviously inviting everybody and generally having someone moderate it, the editor of the press or somebody from the League of Women Voters. But it's also true that candidates, because the public is coming, they appreciate the opportunity to put out their campaign materials. So this gives me information to take back to our club, that if we choose to do a campaign forum this year, we have to look at it either no materials, no ability to raise money or hand out signs, or do we go someplace else and use a different facility that would allow the candidates that freedom? So it's been very helpful to have that discussion.
So I just want to mention, speaking to gray areas, during campaign season, Carrie and I are usually on the phone once a week as I'm working through facility use issues related to campaigns. So this, just as a standard practice for my own assurance, I am frequently contacting our city attorney's office, making sure that what we're saying yes to and no to is within my right to do so. So we get a lot of guidance, and I just wanted to share that with you. And also special events, it's another challenging issue for us to manage.
Okay. Any further questions? Push your button. Okay, let's move through these, and I'm going to start with tab number 9. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve a resolution of the City of Sammamish, Washington, adopting an amended policy for co-sponsorship for city facility use.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion on this one? Any amendments? Or Councilmember Jaron?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make an amendment, and that would be on page 2, Section 3.0 Policy, 3.01 Eligibility for Co-Sponsorship. It reads now, organizations must be based in the city of Sammamish and maintain. My amendment is to remove the words "be based in the city of Sammamish and."
Second?
Okay, any further discussion?
I have one question that addresses that from staff's point of view. Is that something that you can administer very well? Because if it's a nonprofit, where it's located, black and white, where, where's the address, we mail things to you. But in this, now they have to present to you 50% of their membership. How would you really audit that?
I will tell you, we, on our athletic field policy, we base field scheduling on the percentage of residents versus non-residents in each league, and we work on the honor system. And while it's not always defensible, that's how we manage that policy, and I would feel comfortable doing so with this policy as well.
Good.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, do we have any further amendments or discussion? Okay, on the resolution as amended, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 10. Let's have a motion for a resolution of the City of Sammamish, Washington, adopting an amended policy for nonprofit use of city facilities. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or amendment on this one? Councilmember Jaron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this one, on Exhibit 2, page 3, which is Section 3.02, sub B, 4, where it says political activities such as campaign purposes, fundraising events, et cetera, I'm going to lean on our city attorney to say something like, except those activities allowed under RCW 4217A555.
Okay, I've got some proposed amendment language for your
Okay.
consideration. So the language I'm proposing is political activities, and keep the parenthetical, semicolon after the parenthetical. However, open candidate forums are allowed consistent with RCW 42.17A.555 subsection 3.
Great.
Second?
Thank you.
There's a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any further discussion or any further amendments on this one? Okay, on the resolution, all in favor, say, as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 11. I'm asking for a motion on a resolution of the City of Sammamish, Washington, adopting amended policy for facility rentals at the Sammamish City Hall.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion or amendment on this issue? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 12. I'm asking for a motion on a resolution of the City of Sammamish, Washington, adopting an amended policy for facility rentals at the Beaver Lake Lodge and Pavilion. Is there a second? There's a second. Any discussion or amendment on this one? Councilmember Jarrett again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 1 of Exhibit 2, where the definition of dusk lies, it says time at which the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon. And I would like to make an amendment to strike that and say,
30 minutes.
let's see, I think I said a half hour after
After sunset?
sunset.
What I wrote down is that you said the time that is approximately 24 minutes after sunset. But I don't know, I thought that's what you said.
So that was
Yeah.
the technical one.
Yeah, it is 24 minutes.
Motion is the motion.
For the layman.
It's 24 minutes, but I'd like to basically say a half hour.
Second?
So I'm not sure exactly the verbiage, but I guess I'd leave
Well,
that
that
to
works, I
staff.
think. Yeah, that works.
After sunset,
Any further discussion on the amendment?
according to Apple.
Call the question.
All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passed. On the resolution, any further discussion or amendment on the resolution? All in favor of the resolution as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Item number 13. This is, I'm asking for a motion on a resolution of the City of Sammamish, Washington, adopting an amended policy for athletic field rentals. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second? We have a second. Any discussion or amendments on this issue? Councilmember Gerund.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, the definition of dusk on page 1 of Exhibit 2, I would make the amendment to change 6 degrees below the horizon to 30 minutes after sunset.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, please
Aye.
indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment passes. On the resolution as amended, any further discussion or amendment? All in favor of the resolution as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. On to item number 14. Asking for a motion on a resolution of the City of Sammamish, Washington, adopting an amended policy for picnic shelter rentals.
So moved.
Any second on that?
Second?
Any discussion or amendment? Councilmember Jaron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 1 of Exhibit 2, again, the definition of dusk, I would move an amendment to change the time to 30 minutes after sunset.
Second.
The discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Back to the resolution as amended. Any further discussion or amendment?
I have one quick question, again,
Okay.
of staff. I had this highlighted earlier. If you're not going to give priority to the residents, I'm just curious if we should see Klahani join our city and become residents. Do you think that would have any impact on this?
We still do give priority to the residents, January.
Of Klahani, of the residents in
Oh.
our PAA.
I don't understand.
Well, right now, this is
The
written, Sammamish residents.
Well, they will be some.
They get a priority, what I'm saying is they don't, they haven't. We're now going to have another 10,000 homes that will have that priority. Would that, I'm just asking for thought. Could it impact this?
I would say probably not, but if we do find it being negatively impactful, then we will come back and ask for a change. But we would be very pleased to have the Klahani folks
Another,
use our picnic shelters.
Deputy
Good
Mayor
question.
Huckabee?
would they be eligible to be considered residents once the vote has passed? Or would we have to wait until they actually became residents?
I would make that determination administratively, that as soon as the council
I think the
would-
council action would be the
take
thing,
action,
yeah.
then we would.
Even if there's a
we would-
date
Very good. Thank you.
afterwards, yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay, back to the resolution as amended. Any further discussion or amendment? Okay, all in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think we're done with all of this. Is there a 15? There isn't a 15.
You've done
Okay,
it.
thank you very much.
Thank you, council.
Jesse and everyone.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it. Thank you very much. On to council reports. I do want to make one comment. It's too bad Nancy's not here, but I did want to mention that just looking at our calendar for the future, after discussion at the agenda meeting in terms of what we've got coming up, let me find the page. Oh, now I can't find the page.
Is this the calendar?
Can you hand that to me? Here we go. I've got it now. As to Monday, the 18th, Cal meeting, I think given our progress on the comp plan, we're going to be needing that Cal meeting, so please schedule it on your calendars. Monday, the 18th of May. So just be aware that's a meeting.
How about Monday, June 15th?
Well, we're not sure about that one yet, but there is something on the calendar there for the 15th, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that
that
would
may-
be to discuss the results of the election.
There'll be results by then and perhaps action. We'll
Wouldn't we
see.
have the Klahani results by then, too?
And the Klahani issue would be added to the agenda at some point. Okay, anyone else for council reports? I've got Deputy Mayor Huckabee.
Finance Committee meeting this evening. The last Board of Directors meeting asked the Finance Committee to look at the EFR's financial policies. And we were given access to the to EFR's documents, and so we were able to look at, pardon?
That's yours.
Oh,
Never
thank
mind.
you. The current policies, which we all printed off, and we came prepared to discuss them. And it turns out that the policies we were looking at were actually guidelines and more directed towards staff. And at the moment, Eastside Fire and Rescue has no financial policies, but it's all pretty well understood. So what Wes Collins started the meeting for us, Chief Wes Collins, started the meeting by saying that they have not formulated them, appreciated the fact that we are pushing on this. They had downloaded our financial policies, and I had asked Joe to give them to me yesterday and brought them along. Stacy Goodman, who has been nominated and elected as the chairperson of the Finance Committee, also brought the Issaquah financial policies with. So Wes is going to go back now, looking at our policies and formulate what their policies are, and we will look at those policies at the next Finance Committee meeting.
I'm just curious if there's any fire associations that might have some financial policies that we might be able to use as an example as well.
I think so, and looking at, as we went through some of these guidelines, which are really not policies, they're procedures, there was Londi represented North Bend because Ellen wasn't able to attend, and she mentioned in several places as a board policy that we're following Washington state rules. For example, on purchasing and on acquisition of equipment. So we did come up with a number of bullet points to look at and gap policies that will have to be discussed and brought to the board because we did note that there were some changes, some policies that don't exist, and there's never been a board discussion about them. So it'll be an interesting board meeting.
Councilmember Valderrama.
Yes, thank you. 1 month ago, I met with 90 Girl Scouts and their parents. I was accompanied by Councilmember Keller. We had the pleasure of working with kindergartens through third grade girls who were earning a number of Daisy and Brownie badges for their community services, and that was a great success, and I thank both Lynn from the staff for her participation and work, and Councilmember Keller. I then went off to Fort Bragg to see my son for the Easter holidays, came back, and now we head today for the community services requirement for Eagle Scout, the Boy Scouts of Troop 695 here in Sammamish, which was another successful event that we had here. And I'm glad that we have so many of our kids involved in the scouting programs and all the volunteer programs that we've seen here. On East Lake Sammamish Trail, I've been receiving a lot of questions as to when will the 95% plan be presented. Originally, it was supposed to be scheduled for mid-April. It was then, I understood, speaking with the head of Public Works, moved to the end of April. And I don't see it on the look-ahead agenda, so I'm wondering, will we have a presentation, or will they send the 95% plan and then we will move accordingly? But
I think we got to wait and see what we get. My understanding, and again, talking to Ben and Laura, the reason for the change is in part because of their wishing to extend some additional flexibilities on the plan.
Well, I
So it's
appreciate
gonna
that.
take
It's
some
the
work.
Citizens don't know the date, so they're going off of
Well,
the
I don't know the
14th.
date either, so I guess
exactly.
we'll
So
find out.
If we could get a date, that would be beneficial, if we could post that date on the
Lyman, you
website.
can
We
look
will,
into
we'll
that.
take that under advisement, and we'll try to do that.
Okay.
Thank you. And then just a reminder that the ballots are out in Klahani and here in Sammamish, so on the initiative and the annexation, so please vote.
Okay, and on that note, I will make note for anybody that is watching that we do have a ballot van that will be here this weekend and next week. Check our website for the actual locations, but it will be in the parking lot in front of City Hall, so people don't have to drop it in the mail.
Hordes of people in Klahani watching. Klahani Choice has it on their website, too.
Okay, very good.
Is it accurate, the email that I saw, that you don't have to put a stamp on the ballot going into the van?
Correct. You do not have to
On the
put
van, yeah.
postage
Yeah,
for the
'cause they're
van
taking those
because
straight to King County.
it is staffed actually by King County
Right.
election officials.
Right. Okay, Councilmember Keller.
Great, just, I have two reports that have been submitted in writing to the entire council, but I just wanted to.
You're not going to read those?
No, I just wanted to point out a
Okay,
couple things. EFR, we had a board meeting, as you're aware of, and just wanted to let everybody know, again, you can go back to my notes, but everybody is invited to the Fire Ops 101 on May 13th at Station 83 from 4 to 7 o'clock. And then also, wanted to comment about SCA, and the Public Issues Committee. There's two topics that are important. One is the Committee to End Homelessness. They just released on April 15th their kind of final plan, meaning that they're now asking for more input again, and then they're going to change it. This is about the third revision of their plan. I'll be meeting tomorrow with Lyman and Arthur from Arch to talk to them to help get some input. So you'll be getting more information from me on how that plan looks right now. And I'm happy to send out the revised or the current plan right now to everybody if you want to look at it. So it'll be coming out to you. And then also a discussion that I'm going to have with Beth Goldberg about the King County Solid Waste Division. You know, they have a draft report that they put out on what they're going to do with transfer stations, what their plan is. Right now, you know, that's something that has been discussed quite a bit, I think, over the last year. But it is bubbling up again, and we're going to be having more information on that as well.
A good adjective, bubbling.
Bubbling up.
Okay, Councilmember Jared.
Thank you. Following up on what the deputy mayor was talking about financial policies, we won't discuss any more on the EFR ones. SCA, I happen to be the treasurer of SCA, Sound Cities Association, and we've been reviewing our financial policies timely. And I've been given an assignment to come back to our city and actually all the board members to find out how the city is investing their funds, what they can invest it in, and how they're doing it, because we're in money market and CDs and not getting much for our yield. So if you could give me some briefing, it doesn't have to be here tonight, basically on where the funds are being invested and at what sort of yield we're currently at, I'd appreciate it. That's
Sure,
my report.
sure, we'd be happy.
Vodka, and that had
Yeah.
a good store of value.
Okay. Any further comments? I have nothing tonight, but I'll think of something for next time. So, council reports, we've already had city manager's report. Anything additional, Lyman, or?
No,
we're all
nothing for
done?
me.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.